Here we go.
Be sure to remember a copy of the Major Blackhawk Hockey Program, the Gold Magazine, now on sale throughout the stadium. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this big import tonight's NHL game between the Blackhawks and the St. Louis Blues. Charlie Whitburn with the start lineup for tonight's game.
It's a frigid night in Chicago, single-digit temperatures outside, but they're jammed into Chicago Stadium. It's standing room only for the traditional day after Christmas meeting between the St. Louis Blues and the Chicago Blackhawks. Hi, everybody. Happy holidays. I'm Ken Wilson along with John Kelly. This is the matchup of the National Hockey League's top two teams, the Blues and the Hawks. The Blues have the league's best road record and have won 3 in a row on the road. And John, when you look at these top two teams in the NHL statistically, it's a very interesting story.
Well, it is. It's really a toss-up. The Hawks have 5 more points, but the Blues have a better winning percentage by just a few. And when you look at goals scored and goals against, again, they're very close. The Blues have allowed fewer goals than Chicago, and in the goals scored department, they're 10th and 9th respectively. And you look at the figures, Ken, and the key is both teams have not allowed a lot of goals, and that should tell you that defense wins in the National Hockey League and not offense.
And the Blues certainly had terrific defense last Saturday at the arena against the Blackhawks with a 5-0 victory, and of course had 3 shorthanded goals in that game. So the Blues were just tremendous in the game against Chicago at the arena. The Hawks have come back in the meantime, and they have scored a victory over the Detroit Red Wings by a score of 3-2. Dave Lowry, what a game at the arena against the Hawks.
A 4-point night. In addition to that, Lowry was on the ice for every goal the Blues scored, so he was a +5, and he also scored his 8th goal of the year, his first shorthanded goal on a breakaway. He went to his backhand and beat Belfour over his glove hand, but Lowry had a career night on Saturday.
The Blues lost Paul Cavallini for at least 3 weeks in that game, a lacerated index finger, so he'll be out for a while. The Blues will see if they can maintain their outstanding pace without him, and the pace, of course, has just been terrific. They're undefeated in the last 8. Taking on the Hawks, who are always very tough here, and traditionally led by number 28, Steve Larmer, so very steady.
Well, Larmer has killed the Blues over the years. He scored 32 goals in 68 games against St. Louis. This year, he has the 3rd most goals in the league with 24. And remember, last year in Game 7, he had 5 assists in that 8-2 win. So he comes to play, especially in the big games, and this is a big game.
These folks here in Chicago have come to yell and scream, and the Blues have come to extend their undefeated streak to 9 straight games. It's the Blues and the Blackhawks at Chicago Stadium. This is St. Louis Blues hockey.
We were a little bit late.
I was just waiting for you. I was sort of filling, you know, because I was saying, well, I thought he was going to Lowry, and you were going to Lowry. You were waiting for me to go to Lowry. I was waiting for you. But I got plenty of time. I got a lot to say. It's all right.
Boo, 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 boo. Okay. Hello, Tom. All right. I just wanted to get the level. Ken Wilson, John Kelly back live at the stadium in Chicago on a chilly night here in the Windy City, but things should be quite warm inside, as they always are when the Blues and Blackhawks get together. The Blues are coming off the 5-0 win on Saturday, and remarkably, Brett Hull did not get nary a point in that game, stopping his 8-game point streak, but a couple of other men had big nights. Lowry a goal and 3 assists, and Adam Oates had a couple of goals and 1 assist. But Brett Hull is ready to go tonight. He leads the league with 36 goals in 35 games. Ed Belfour will be in next for Chicago, and he'll be opposed by Vince Riendeau. They're just about set for the national anthem, which is an event in itself here at the stadium in Chicago. Wayne Messmer with the vocals, and here we go with our national anthem.
Oh, say can you see by the company light what so proudly we hailed, and the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets ran bright, the bombs bursting in our gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, Satan's that star-spangled banner yet
Another splendid job by Wayne Messmer as he gets this crowd whipped into a frenzy for tonight's contest. Vince Riendeau in next tonight for St. Louis, a 13-4-3 record, and Riendeau is undefeated in his last 6 games. He's coming off his 3rd shutout of his career on Saturday when he stopped 20 Blackhawks shots in the 5-0 win. Ed Belfour did not play Sunday in the Hawks' 3-2 win over Detroit. Jimmy Waite did, but Belfour is back in nets, and prior to Sunday's game, Belfour had started in 15 straight games, so he is the Hawks' #1 man. The #1 man in charge of tonight's game is referee Kerry Fraser, and the linesmen Ron Asseltine and Mark Vine. Set to go with the first period, and here's Ken Wilson.
Thank you very much, John Kelly. We hope Christmas was a wonderful one for you. Let's hope this game equals that, as this traditional holiday season meeting is in Chicago this year. Puck in the Blues zone. Ron Wilson has it, and he bounces it over Hull's stick at center ice. Momesso is the other way. Very quickly, Basson replaces Wilson. Featherstone and Sneps are on defense for the Blues, and Featherstone has the puck at his own blue line. Featherstone gives it off to Hull. Now it comes to Sneps, gets away from him, and Chicago controls. Chelios at his blue line. Up to Roenick. He'll backhand it in. Riendeau behind the Blues goal. Tries to clear it into the corner. Can't. Then a battle for it there. Sneps gets it loose. Here's Lemieux. Pumped by Sneps. Then Goulet centers through the goal mouth. Larmer can't get a stick on the puck. Chelios keeps it into Larmer, trying to center to Lemieux. He does. Then Jocelyn Lemieux checked by Basson. And Momesso gets the puck off the boards ahead to Hull, cutting into the left wing. Trying to move in front. He can't. The puck comes in the air, bounces wide of the net, and the former Blues player Jocelyn Lemieux gets it. He sends it rink wide to Larmer. Now in the middle to the former Montreal defenseman Chelios to Goulet. To Lemieux, and his shot goes wide. At the right point, Presley off the bench. He's checked. McLean gets the puck, now to Oates, and his pass broken up by the youngster Mike Peluso. He'll dump the puck into the blue zone. Here's Jeff Brown behind the St. Louis net. Left wing, it comes to Lowry. On to Oates. Tripped up at center ice, but still able to shoot the puck in. Steve Conroy, the ex-Islander, deep in his own zone for Chicago. He's wrestled down by McLean. Oates gets the puck back to the point, but before it reaches Brown, Lemieux intercepts. Right wing for Presley. Poke check nicely by Stevens. Then Lemieux backhands the puck in and is bumped by Stevens. And play is stopped. And we'll have a neutral face-off as the Blackhawks are offside. And both teams here will change players.
As Dave Lowry comes on the ice, and Lowry already did a pretty good job on his first shift. He goes off the ice now to the bench, but Lowry did a nice job in coming back in the blue zone and creating interference. In other words, he stopped the onrushing Hawk forwards from getting to the Blues defense. And Ken, the Blues coaches always talk about that. You've got to hold up the Hawk forwards and give your defense time to get the puck and clear the puck.
This crowd is so charged up. It's very tough when you come in here to get your bearings sometimes in the early minutes. And of course the Hawks usually come out hammering. So the first 10 minutes for a visiting team here, very important. Hawks get the puck in. Thomas, a shot from the left wing over the net, off the glass and into the crowd. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Steve Thomas comes cruising in on the left wing.
He picked up a puck on left wing as Glenn Featherstone was caught in the middle of the ice, and Thomas unloaded a high drive, and he's got one of the hardest shots in the NHL, but it was over the glass and out of play. Thomas not having a Steve Thomas kind of year. He missed the first couple of weeks with a knee sprain, and he has 7 goals in 28 games. Brian Sutter obviously was very pleased with the Blues' performance Saturday. His counterpart, Mike Keenan, called it the Hawks' worst game since he came to Chicago from Philadelphia.
He did, Keenan did, give the Blues some credit. He says they did what they always do. They worked very hard. Puck in the blue zone behind the net. Marois has it. He's on defense with Dirk. Up for Sutter. Stopped by Thomas. He slides the puck through the slot. No one there. McNeil moves it on the right wing. Takes a check. Sends it to Thomas behind the net. Thomas now to the corner. Centering for Creighton. He and McNeil are bumped. Creighton behind the Blues net. Looking to center. Does. No one there except Jeff Portnoy. One-on-one at center ice. Back on the play is McGill. The pass in front and Kuchera intercepts. Here's Mike McNeil with Creighton for Chicago. 2-on-2 to Creighton. Back to the youngster McNeil on his backhand. A pass for Kuchera. He comes to the side of the net. A shot. Save. Puck loose in the crease. Still loose. And Riendo finally smothers it to gain a whistle and stop play as the Blackhawks came in there and moved in dangerously on young Vince Riendo.
Well, the Blues got caught off ice, and the Hawks came back 3-on-2. A drop pass to McNeil, and he tried to feed Kuchera, the defenseman, moving up on the play, but Kuchera got in a bit too tight, and Riendo had the shot all the way, and then he covered the rebound after McNeil was manhandled in front by Robert Dirk. Not dressed tonight for the Blues, Paul Cavallini with that finger injury. He'll be out a minimum of 3 weeks. Also scratched Rod Brindamore. He's missed the last couple games. Mike Keenan's Blackhawks not using tonight. Trent Yawning, Troy Murray, Stu Grimson, and Keith Brown.
From the draw to Doug Wilson, screen shot, and it's deflected just wide of Riendo. And in front, Brown mixing it up a bit with Gilbert, and Kerry Fraser stops play. Also, the net came loose behind goalie Vince Riendo, and that's why the stoppage resulted. Jeff Brown coming over last season from Quebec in the Greg Millen deal. Millen, of course, eventually moving on here to the Chicago Blackhawks and has not played a single minute yet this season. And Brown, of course, has been very key to the Blues.
He's played well, Ken, but I think there's more pressure on Jeff Brown now that Paul Cavallini is out of the lineup. Remember when Adam Oates missed 18 games, the Blues really did not miss a beat. They went 11-5-2, but I think there'll be a lot more pressure on Brown with Cavallini out of the lineup.
From the face-off, the Blues, Brown in front of his net. On with Stevens. Left wing to Momesso. Wilson's at center. Hall on the right side. They give it to Stevens over the line. He fakes a shot. Centers in front for Hall. The puck slides in front. Wilson scores on the rebound. Ron Wilson, after a feed for Hall, reached the goal area. The puck comes out in front, and the veteran Ron Wilson moves in all alone and beats Ed Belfour. And at the 3:01 mark of the opening period, the Blues take a 1-0 lead.
Well, Stevens made the play, as you mentioned, Ken. He faked the shot. Hall went to the net, and he drew 2 players with him, and that left the Blues' third man coming in, Ron Wilson, wide open. And Wilson scores his second game in as many games against Chicago. But the Hawks, their error was 2 men went to Brett Hull, and he can do that. And that left Wilson wide open in front, and Gilbert was a hair late in checking him, and the Blues lead 1-0.
Well, Belfour left a very nice rebound for Ron Wilson. From the center ice face-off, Chicago owns the puck. Here's Goulet up the left wing into the middle to Manson. Long shot just wide. The puck goes behind the Blues net. Roenick is crunched to the boards there. Then the puck loose in the corner. Basson there with Larmer, a pair of 28s. Basson up the near boards to Ragland. Now to Gino Cavallini. Steps on defense with Featherstone, and a long shot ends up sailing over the glass and well into the crowd. 1-0. The Blues lead it. This is St. Louis Blues hockey.
St. Louis goal scored by Wilson, assisted by Stevens and Momesso at 3:01.
Are they on the air?
The puck is dropped, and Bob Basson and Jocelyn Lemieux get in a main event. We had quite a few fights last Saturday, and Lemieux ends up plummeting Basson to the ice and ends up on top of the former Blackhawk. Well, two very spunky performers, Basson and Lemieux. Basson, the former Hawk, Lemieux, the former Blues player, and they get this crowd to its feet here at the 3:35 mark of the opening period. That Blues goal, by the way, again at 3:01. Wilson from Stevens and Momesso. Well, a little workout, John, for those two fellas as Basson takes a look at his knuckles on the right hand as he goes to the penalty bench.
It happened right off a face-off. Lemieux is taking the face-off, something he does not do a lot of, and they dropped the gloves. And I'll tell you what, folks, they both landed some solid right hands. Basson got in the early punches on Lemieux, and I mean, he landed some haymakers, and he was really upset. They were teammates last year. Basson got out of control a bit, and then Lemieux came back, and he really never landed any solid punches. He really pushed Basson to the ice. But both players did get a couple of good blows in, and I would have to score that one even. It's not even on the scoreboard, though. The Blues lead 1-0. This is St. Louis Blues hockey.
St. Louis penalty, number 28, Bob Basson. 2 minutes for slashing and 5 minutes for fighting. Blackhawk penalty, number 26, Jocelyn Lemieux. 2 minutes for instigating and 5 minutes for fighting at 3:35. St. Louis penalty, Basson. 2 minutes slashing, 5 minutes fighting. Blackhawk penalty, Lemieux. 2 minutes instigating, 5 minutes fighting at 3:35.
The Blues have taken a 1-0 lead on Wilson, 6th of the year, from Stevens and Momesso at 3:01. And now Basson and Lemieux get 7 minutes each in penalties. Lemieux got an extra for instigating, and Basson an extra for slashing.
Both teams at full strength. The Hawks, Creighton into the corner in the blue zone to Presley behind the net. He and Oates vie for it. Presley tries to come in front camp. Down to Creighton. He centers. Peluso covered at the blue line. Manson, a shot deflected right on by Peluso. And the save by Riendeau. Scott Stevens, the Blues captain, moves the puck ahead to Lowry. Rink wide for Paul McLean over the line. A pass back, broken up, then it's stolen. Oates, a shot, he scores! Presley has the puck stolen by Adam Oates, and he beats Ed Belfour. And the Blues have struck quickly here in the opening period, and they lead it 2-0. This goal at 4:08, just 67 seconds after Ron Wilson's goal, and the return of Adam Oates has been nothing less than spectacular.
Has he ever been great? 4 goals in his last 4 games since coming back, and he picked the pocket of Wayne Presley, and a screen shot beats Belfour low to the stick side, but
Presley, big error there. The 6-year veteran had his pocket picked by Adam Oates as Presley tried to work out of the zone, and Oates came in, knocked it away, and from the deep slot he beat Belfour. Stick side, and the Blues lead 2-0.
This is in many ways similar to the other night at the arena when the Blues jumped ahead and the Hawks just kind of lost their spunk. Play at center ice. Chris Chelios wrists it in, but it goes off the linesman and into the crowd. Talking with Mike Keenan about that very point, he pointed out, as you see Jacques Cloutier, the backup goalie, that in that game it was rare that the Hawks actually didn't change the momentum. The Blues got the momentum at the arena, and the Hawks were unable to change it and really just packed it in. And Mike Keenan says our club is very good at stopping the other team's momentum and turning it around. And of course here it's very clear the momentum belongs to the Blues with a 2-0 lead. And I'm sure that Mike Keenan has that going through his mind. We're at home. We're coming off of a victory against Detroit. Can we change the momentum? Manson, a shot from the left point, knocked down. The Blues break out. Momesso ahead to Hall, a breakaway. Outside, he shoots high over the net. Hall set up by Momesso with a breakaway, and he misses the goal, and now there'll be a penalty called by Kerry Fraser. Well, the action is hot and heavy here at the outset in Chicago as the Blues have goals from Ron Wilson and Adam Oates. Oates unassisted at 4:08, and it's 2-0. Now Manson will go off for the Blackhawks. This is St. Louis Blues hockey.
The goals were apart.
I said.
I got him a minute 7.
I said 67 seconds.
Oh, okay.
That's pretty close.
No,
That's
right.
I tried to say 67. I was up to minute 7.
Sergio Momesso, who assisted on the Blues' first goal, makes a brilliant flip pass to Brett Hall moments ago from his own line, and Hall in a breakaway shoots it high, but Manson gets a slashing minor at 4:37. The Blues on the power play leading 2-0.
At the left point, Jeff Brown. Stevens is at the right point. Brown along the boards loses the puck. Here's a feed up on the left wing. Hudson trying to move in. Mike Hudson taken down by Stevens, and there'll be a penalty. A penalty coming up to Scott Stevens as Mike Hudson, made like Brett Hall, trying to break away. Would have had a breakaway had he not been hooked from behind by Stevens, and the Blues power play is extremely short-lived.
Well, that was a pretty good penalty to take as Conroy fed Hudson, and Stevens was caught flat-footed a bit at the blue line, and then Hudson got a jump on him, and Scott came back and got the stick up in Hudson's shoulder, knocked him down, and Stevens goes off at 4:54. And Ken, that's the kind of penalty you don't mind a player taking when they're on the power play, because it prevented the Hawk player from getting a breakaway.
This Chicago team, very strong killing penalties, and they have 9 shorthanded goals, which is tops in the league. So you have to be aware of their offensive potential when you are on the power play. Both teams now will play 4 skaters aside with a face-off near Riendo. Hudson and Gilbert up front for Chicago. It'll be Hudson against Oates on the faceoff. Oates is out with Hall and Brown and Featherstone. From the right point, a shot by McGill deflects wide. Conroy pinches in. Banks the puck behind the net. Hudson moves in front of. Backhand shot. Riendo the save, and Hall tries to break out. Gilbert all over him, takes him down. And at center ice, Adam Oates gets the punt. The pass is behind Hall. Brown covers up and circles in his own territory. Now to Brett Hall, looking for some skating room. Blues lead at 2-0. Still early in the first period. Hull is stopped, then Conroy hands it to Hull. Here he comes over the line. Brett Hull, a move to the middle. Then he's knocked down from behind by Hudson, and the puck in the corner. Hull from his knees centers. Conroy there for Chicago, and there'll be a penalty. There'll be a penalty coming up, and it'll be against the Blackhawks. Now Kerry Fraser clamping down here in this first period at Chicago Stadium tonight. Both teams already are 1 man short.
Well, Brett Hall has been manhandled a couple of times. He was knocked down in his own zone, got up, and then raced up the ice. And after Hall dropped the puck off, he was really ran to the boards hard by McGill, who gets a boarding call. Hall was sliding to the corner, and McGill came in
and just pushed him into the boards, and Hull was facing the boards and he was on the ice, and that's a call you don't see too often. But Ken, the referees like to protect players when they're in a vulnerable position, especially players like Brett Hull. You've got to protect those kind of players.
A lot of people in this game make their living from fellows like Brett Hull. No question about it. 5:30 gone, first period. Now the Blues have a one-man advantage. 4 skaters to 3. The face-off in the Chicago end. Ronning and Oates on with Hull. And 1 defenseman, that's Brown. Blues power play. Larmer and Goulet and Conroy for Chicago. Blues set it up. Straight away Brown faking a shot. Right point to Oates. Wide on either side, Ronning and Hull. Ronning on the right side accepts the pass, gives it back to Oates. It's almost like a chess game. Ronning into the slot to Brown, in front for Hull to Ronning, a shot, the save. Oates a drive over the crossbar. Hull in the corner, digs it out, sends the puck back to Brown. Blues 2-0. They have the lead. Brown right side to Oates. Blues with a man advantage. Back to Brown into the slot. His drive. Save Belfour on Jeff Brown. Puck along the boards. They battle. Goulet there for Chicago. It's dug out by Adam Oates. Oates back to the blue line to Brown. Left circle to Hall. Right circle to Ronning. He can't handle it. Now to Brown. A quick shot. Bad save. Rebound. Loose puck. Ronning shoots. He scores on the rebound. Cliff Ronning. And the Blues moving the puck around magnificently with a man advantage. And coming off of a 5-0 victory over the Blackhawks, they lead it here at the stadium 3-0. What a start by the Blues tonight.
And what a goal by Cliff Ronning, his 7th of the year. And the key, Ken, as you mentioned, the Blues moved that puck around. They had the Hawk players all over the ice. Brown let a shot go from the point. Oates and Hull had cracks at the rebound. And then the puck came across to Ronning with Belfour down. Ronning had a wide open goal, and he scores his 7th on the power play at 6:21. But the key was, as you mentioned, Ken, the Blues were in a box and the 2 wingers were both wide on each side, and that spread out the Blackhawks defense. 2 players went to Hull and Oates. That left Ronning in front, and he scored to make it 3-0.
Both teams now are a man short. Ronning 7th. Blues score. Wilson at 3:01. Oates at 4:08. Now the power play goal from Ronning at 6:21. 16 seconds to go in Manson's penalty. 33 seconds remaining in Stevens' penalty. And from the face-off, Frantisek Kuchera, the young Czech, shoots the puck in. Then he ends up in the corner with it. Kuchera wears number 6 to McNeil behind the goal. Into the corner. Hassled there by Sneps. The puck comes loose. Featherstone has it. Manson back on it. Chicago with a power play. Up to Courtnall. Off the boards. Not out. Kept in by Thomas. Into the corner. Behind the net for McNeil. He's tied up there by Sneps. Stevens ready to come on. At the left point, Kuchera. His shot. Knocked down in front. Loose puck. Stevens returns. Blues at full strength. Wilson on the attack from his own zone to Courtnall over the line, but Stevens was yanked down offside, and the whistle stops play. 7:03 gone. First period, and the Blues are on top, 3-0. This is St. Louis Blues hockey.
Assisted by Oates and Brown at 6:21.
Yeah. We don't need it now. We're set for the face-off outside the Chicago blue line. The Blues are on top 3-0. Ken Wilson with John Kelly at the stadium. Doug Wilson takes over for Chicago in his own end. Over to McGill. Rink wide for Creighton. Up the near left side. Over the Blues line. Checked by Sutter. Marois gets the puck. Can't get it out. Wilson keeps it in. Courtnall over skates it. And Courtnall now in possession at his own line. Knocked down. And a scramble for the puck at the St. Louis blue line. Cliff Ronning comes up with it. To the red line. He'll golf it in. Belfour unable to stop it behind the goal. It comes along the far boards to Creighton, who's had a rugged year. He stuffs it to center ice, and Manson moving up is stopped at the blue line by Marois. And Ronning with a puck. Over to Rich Sutter. He'll shoot it in, and the Blues will make a line change. Bob McGill, the former elite player, back for it. Over the right side to Dirk Graham, in the middle to Wilson. Doug Wilson, the big slap shot, and he blisters it just wide, and that thing was dropping like a knuckleball. Puck behind the Blues net, Ronning into the corner to Stevens, and he clears it up the middle, and the puck will go down into the Chicago zone, and Doug Wilson backboard as the Blues line change is completed. Goulet at his own line. Puck comes high to Graham. Graham into the Blues zone, too far for Hudson. And here's Scott Stevens up to Ron Wilson. Wilson to the red line. Ron Wilson already with a goal into the Chicago end. Centers for Gino Cavallini. And Kuchera breaks up the play. Quickly feeds on the right side to Goulet. He runs into the linesman in the Blues. Gino Cavallini shoots the puck right back in. Both teams are changing on the fly. Here comes Chicago. Graham, the former North Star, loses it to Lowry. Lowry in the Chicago zone, can't go anywhere, and Roenick takes over. To Kuchera, left side to Goulet. He'll shoot it in and then is ridden to the boards by Featherstone. Scott Stevens takes possession of the puck behind his own net. Up for Lowry. He's run into by Steve Thomas. And Lowry just clears it out, and Roenick shoots it back in. Glove down by Featherstone. Off the boards for McLean. Not much room to operate out there at the moment. Very tight checking. Blues lose it. Here's Chelios. Chelios with a puck over the St. Louis line. Stops along the far board, centers, and it's broken up by Stevens. He clears to the far side. Lowry moves the puck up the boards and out to center ice. And Manson misplays it. Loose puck in the Chicago end. McLean into the corner with it. He's run into by a pair of Hawk players, and Chelios gets it behind his net. Up to Roenick, a bouncing puck. He loses it at his own line. Here's Oates to McLean, and a pass from Momesso is behind him. Here comes Chicago. Roenick, right wing to Steve Thomas. He'll wind up, fake a shot. Now a wrist shot blocked by Dirk. Blues take over. Marois to McLean at the end of a shift. Has it stripped away by Gilbert. Gilbert against Marois, and he falls down, and Mario Marois takes over for St. Louis from behind his net. Out on the left wing to Momesso. Nicely up to center ice to Oates. He just flips the puck into the Chicago zone. The Blues are changing again. They lead it 3-0. Hawks dump it in. Back for the puck, Robert Dirk. His pass too far at center ice, and here's Manson turning at his own line. Under 10 to go in the opening period. It's been a good one for the Blues. They've outshot Chicago 7-3. Loose puck in the neutral zone. Ron Wilson takes over. The former Jet pulls up in the Chicago end along the boards. He's pinched to the boards there by McGill. Then Momesso there with Conroy battling along the boards for the puck. It comes loose to Momesso. He can't make a pass, and Gilbert starts out for Chicago. Right side to Conroy over the line with Larmer. In front to Larmer, and he can't get a shot. He's pulled down, and there'll be a penalty. A hooking penalty coming up against the Blues. 9:25 to go in the first period. 3-0 St. Louis.
Well, you can own a deluxe satellite system for just $1,995, and shipment can be sent anywhere in the U.S. Call Arnold Satellite Systems at 1-800-727-2911 for your deluxe satellite system. Let's pause 5 seconds for station ID. This is St. Louis Blues hockey. Ron Wilson gets a hooking minor at 10:35 as he hooked down Steve Larmer in front, and the Blackhawks will get their second power play of the contest. Larmer got the pass in front, and Wilson came back and hooked at his foot, and Larmer, outstretched, fell down, and Chicago will get a power play. The Blues lead 3-0. Their last goal, Ronning his 7th from Oates and Brown. At 6:21, the Hawks power play, 4th in the NHL, but they face a very good penalty killing unit, the Blues, 2nd overall in the league, 86.4%.
Chicago has Creighton at center on the power play. He's bidding for his 100th career goal. Larmer and Roenick are with him. Chelios and Wilson. Back to the left point to Doug Wilson. He'll let it go. Knocked down. And the Blues, Lowry gets the puck and shoots at the length of the ice. Up front with Lowry is Basson, Sneps, and Featherstone on defense. Chelios can really carry it out of his own zone up to Creighton. The former Sabre drives it into the far corner. Digging it out is Roenick. Now Roenick behind the Blues net. Sends the puck to Wilson at the left point. Right point to Chelios over his stick and to center ice. He shoots it back in, and the Hawks are caught offside. 28 seconds into the Chicago power play, with the Blues on top in this one 3-0 on early goals from Ron Wilson, Adam Oates, and Cliff Ronning.
And Chris Chelios, a big reason why the Hawks have one of the best power play units in the league. Chelios 8 goals, 29 assists, and 4 power play goals, although he has not scored a goal since November 24th. But nonetheless, he's added a lot to the Hawk power play. And they rule, Ken, because the Hawks were guilty of a deliberate offside, the faceoff will come all the way back in the Chicago end.
Minute 32 to go, and the penalty to Ron Wilson. Oates, Sutter, Stevens, and Marois killing the penalty. And the Blues get the puck. Rich Sutter at center ice shoots it to the Chicago defense. Ron Wilson serving the penalty, and Oates can't make a play, and the puck deep in the Chicago zone. Talking about Doug Wilson and Chris Chelios, they both have won Norris trophies. Roenick shoots it in, and it's offside. Chicago, and the whistle stops play. The Blues goal, of course, not to let Chicago really get rolling on the power play, not to allow them to set up. And Jeremy Roenick, I guess, is the new Denny Savard, if you will. They really depend on this youngster a lot for offense.
Well, Roenick had a big year last year. In his rookie year, had 66 points. And he's having a nice season, second on the Hawks in scoring with 18 goals and 22 assists. And he and Larmer are the two men you really have to stop on the power play. Roenick has 8 power play goals, and Larmer has 10. He's second in the league behind Brett Hall, who has 11 power play goals.
A neutral faceoff. Marois gets the puck, sends it to the Chicago defense. That's Manson. With Larmer, they're the point men. Larmer wrists it in. The puck bounces over Riendo's stick behind the net. Steve Thomas can't move it ahead. It comes back to the point. Manson, a wrist shot, flies just wide. Dave Lowry gets the puck. Can't get it out. Larmer keeps it in. Over to the right side to Thomas. He'll send it through the slot area to Goulet. Behind the net for McNeil. He overskates it. Lowry takes over. He's wrestled the boards by Thomas. Stevens trying to get up the far side. Can't. Then a Goulet pass too far for Larmer. He'll come all the way back into his own end for the puck. Both teams are changing. 30 seconds to go in Ron Wilson's penalty. Blues, Marois intercepts and forces Chicago to go back near their own net to start out. Manson leading the attack in his own zone to the blue line. Manson at the red line. Fires the puck in. Goulet in the corner. Stops it. Looks to center. Battles there with Oates. Thomas there with Featherstone. Oates gets the puck. Can't get it out. It comes in front to Goulet. Right point to Larmer. He'll take a wrist shot. Knocked down in front by Sneps. Goulet in the corner. Two veterans, Sneps and Goulet. Now back on Ron Wilson. Steve Thomas for Chicago to the point. A shot there by McGill blocked. Sneps leads the rush. He'll wind her up. Long shot and a stick save by Belfour. And the Chicago power play not allowed to do much by the Blues. 7:05 left in the opening period. Hawks out of their own end. Presley unable to control the puck at center ice, and Marois shoots it in. Back forward is McGill. 3-0 Blues. They've outshot Chicago 8-3. Chicago shoots it in. Riendo out of the crease to leave the puck for Dirk. Up to Courtnall. He's in heavy traffic. Couple of nice moves by Jeff Courtnall. Now he gives it to Marois, who looks back for Courtnall. To the red line, he shoots it in. Out of the corner, the puck in front of the net, and goalie Ed Belfour plays it away. And then McLean tries to center, can't. Peluso for Chicago in his own end. Up for Creighton. He's bumped. Brown gets the puck, and Jeff flips it to the Chicago defense, and the Hawks shoot it down the ice. There'll be no icing. The two teams changing again on the fly. Jeff Brown in his own zone to Courtnall. Up on the right side to McLean. Back for Courtnall too far. And Larmer at the Chicago blue line. Ahead for Gilbert. He misses a Stevens check. Right wing to Hudson. Looking for Larmer in front. The shot, the save, rebound. The puck is loose. Slides wide and is covered by the Blues player, Scott Stevens. And that stops the action. Just over 6 minutes remaining. And the Blues in the first period lead it 3-0. This is St. Louis Blues hockey.
The Blues lead 3-0 And quite a surprise for a lot of people here in the first period. But, you know, Ken, both teams have not practiced for 2 days. It's a league rule. You can't practice on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. So a lot of times after a 2-day layoff, you never know what to expect.
That's what everyone has said coming into this game. Both teams had rather vigorous workouts today. There's a shot from the right point, knocked down. Then Ragland drilled by Manson, and the loose puck behind the Blues net. Stevens and Lemieux run together. Stevens saw Lemieux coming. Lemieux bounces off of him. 3-on-2 break. Brown to Ragland. Over the line. For Brown. Flips the puck towards the net. Wide. And Bob McGill takes over. We've got some heavyweights who like to bump out there loud. Lemieux runs at Stevens in front of the Chicago bench. The puck poked behind the Chicago goal. Gino Cavallini centers to Ragland. Rebound rally to the save by Belfour. McGill, Lemieux, Ragland, and the others are bumping around right in the crease area where Ed Belfour is stationed. What a chance there for the Blues. Well, plenty of excitement, a lot of hammering on that shift. 5:22 remaining in the opening period. 3-0 Blues. This is St. Louis Blues hockey.
Clock 8 minutes. Stevens was ready, right?
Tom, you got a replay of the last 2 hits in the Blues end, both those hits. No, go back farther than that. Back to the Ragland hit. Run those 2 quickly if you can. The hit on Ragland, those 2 hits. If you're not ready to take a hit, you will get clobbered, and Herb Ragland was clobbered by Manson, and then Stevens behind the Blues goal, he was ready. He knew Lemieux was coming, and then Lemieux, who was trying to be the big hitter there, was actually the hittee, and Stevens knocked him down. The bottom line of that, Ken, you better be ready when the other team's coming in.
Puck in the Chicago zone. Ron Wilson in the corner, bumped by Conroy, and Peluso comes to center ice. Hull steals the puck away. Ron Wilson knocked down before he can shoot it in. Creighton carries over the line, bumped by Featherstone in the corner. Peluso runs into Snaps. Featherstone bumps Creighton. Featherstone with a puck behind the Blues net. Up to Momesso. The body's beginning to fly now. Maybe the Hawks have been awakened. Blues clear it out. Conroy slaps the puck back in, hits the official. Featherstone dumps it out. Conroy for Chicago to Jeremy Roenick, the Boston native. Back for Conroy along the near boards. He'll shoot it in. And the puck deflected to the corner by Riendo's stick. Here's Momesso avoiding Roenick. Can't avoid Hudson. And Snaps bumps. Heavy hitting in the corner. Snaps can't get it out. Kept in by Chelios. Hudson behind the Blues net. Hudson trying to wrap it around, and Wilson wrestles him down. Harold Snaps gets the puck. Hands it to Gilbert. Quick shot. Knocked out in front. Loose puck. Hudson can't get a shot. Covered by Wilson. Snaps sends the puck the length of the ice. And Belfour plays it up the near boards to Conroy. Now ahead it comes to Hudson, but it is offside Chicago. 4:09 left in the first period. The Blues have all 3 goals. This is St. Louis Blues hockey. Yeah, but we're not doing a regular game.
The Blues lead 3-0. Goals from Wilson, Oates, and Ronning. And the Blues are off and running here at Chicago Stadium. And they've outshot the Hawks 9-3. When's the last time the Hawks had 3 shots on goal in the first period?
Go back to that 3rd period in St. Louis the other night when the Hawks were stymied by the Blues. And the Hawks have to wonder about it. The Blues have been fabulous. Face off in the Chicago end. Manson kicks the puck to center ice, and Merwell rifles it right back. Belfour out of the crease, leaves the puck behind the net. Played by McGill up to Thomas. Thomas looks for McNeil and or Lemieux. Flips it in. Knocked down by Dirk. Dirk run to the boards. Rich Sutter gets the puck. Rink wide to Courtnall. With Oates. They crisscross at the line. Oates takes the pass. Centers for Courtnall. He can't get a shot. Too well covered by Manson. With an outlet to Thomas. The puck comes to center ice to Mike McNeil. He shoots it in. It circles behind the Blues net up in the near boards. Here's Courtnall. Hawks are changing. Courtnall from the line, a slap shot off the blocker of Ed Belfour into the corner. Larmer, good in his own end, back for the punt, then gives it away. Oates centers, no one there. Here's Gilbert, quickly ahead for Creighton, behind Stevens, cutting in, round back, and he doesn't allow Creighton to get a shot. Oh, and Larmer runs Scott Stevens from behind, and there'll be a penalty to Larmer. Stevens gets up, runs into Larmer. Now the Blues carry the puck all the way into the Chicago zone. The Hawks finally touch the puck, and the penalty will be against the Blackhawks, Steve Larmer, for running Scott Stevens from behind. Well, this period has certainly gotten more physical as play has gone on, but the Blues, with early goal scoring, have the lead 3-0.
Blackhawk penalty, number 28, Steve Larmer.
Steve Larmer gets a 40 minor at 16:56, and the Blues, who lead 3-0, will get a power play. And I'll tell you what, Larmer really ran Stevens into the boards in the Blues' end. And that could have been, in my mind, more than 2 minutes. It was a rather vicious check. So Larmer gets a 40 minor at 16:56, and the Blues get a power play. They lead 3-0. Well, it's the first period, Blues fans, and time to head for the mountains and round up a round of that refreshingly smooth, ice-cold Busch beer. But hurry back.
Larmer off. The Blues 1 for 2 on the power play. They have Oates out there, Hall, Gino Cavallini, Brown, and Stevens face off to the left of the Chicago goal. Oates wins the draw, but the Blues can't keep the puck in. Conroy, Chelios, Lemieux, and Peluso killing the penalty for Mike Keenan's team. Here come the Blues. Gino Cavallini takes a pass from Oates, tries to move in front from the left wing and is unable to. And Mike Peluso takes over for the Hawks. Puck doesn't come out, kept in, knocked down by a high stick, but Hull gets there before the Chicago player. Back to Scott Stevens, over to the right point to Brown. Back to Stevens straight away, left side to Hull, in front for Oates, out of his reach, and Peluso shoots at the length of the ice. 2:30 to go in the first period. 3-0 Blues. Brown up to Hull. Hull over the line. Can't control the puck. It springs out to center ice to Jeff Brown. Along the near boards to Hull. In the middle, right at the center dot to Stevens. Left wing to Oates. He'll backhand it to the Chicago goal. Belfour plays it into the corner to McGill. He bounds it to the point where the Blues keep it in. Hull along the far boards to Stevens, and it's poked away. And back comes the puck into the St. Louis zone with a minute to go in the Blues power play. Stevens controls it. Blues, Oates, now to Courtnall. Hull is on the right side, accepts the pass, moves into the Chicago end to Hull. From Courtnall as they exchange passes, Hull centers, and Gilbert there to take over for Chicago. Blues unable to really get set up on this power play. Gilbert just steers the puck into the St. Louis end. In 35 seconds, Larmer returns to the ice. Under 2 to go, first period. Marijuana center ice. He'll wrist it into the corner. Bouncing puck. Courtnall gets it. Plays it behind the net. Catches a high stick from Chelios. Chelios ends up with a puck. Then in front of the Chicago net, Manson gets it and shoots at the length of the ice. A minute 20 to go in the period. Blues with one last effort here on the power play. Featherstone in front of his own goal. Stick handles to the center red line. Blasts the puck in. It circles behind the goal to the far side, and Jocelyn Lemieux takes over. He's jostled there by McLean. Now Courtnall along the boards. He's knocked down from behind, and there'll be a penalty just as the penalty was up to Larmer. He was coming on the ice as Jocelyn Lemieux takes Jeff Courtnall down. This penalty at the 19-minute mark of the opening period, and the Blues will have another power play. The Blues lead it here at Chicago Stadium 3-0.
So one Hawk player comes out of the box and another goes right back in. Lemieux at the 19-minute mark gets a penalty. And the Blues will get another power play. They lead 3-0 in the game. Goals from Wilson, Oates, and Ronning. And the Blues have a very enjoyable lead right now.
Number 26, Jocelyn Lemieux. 2 minutes for slashing and 2 minutes for unsportsmanlike
Lemieux will get a slashing penalty. And fact, will get a pair of penalties. He slashes and gets the 2 there and gets an additional 2. And the Blues are going to have a 4-minute power play, John.
Well, he got the stick up pretty high on a Blues player, Courtnall, and he also said something. So the Blackhawks clearly frustrated right now, down 3-0. But boarding people and slashing people and getting unsportsmanlike conducts, that doesn't get you back in the game.
The Hawks are not as disciplined, to be sure, as they would like. Under a minute to go. 3-0 Blues in the first period. Scott Stevens getting an opportunity again with the man advantage. Lets Gino Cavallini take the puck. Gives it to Brown. Now rink wide behind Stevens, who gets it back in his own end. A poor pass on the near boards, and here's Steve Conroy carrying it in. To Larmer. Back for Conroy behind the net. Looking to center. He's unable to. And the Blues take over. Gino Cavallini. 25 seconds to go in the period. Up to Ronnie. With Hull and Gino Cavallini. Ronnie shoots the puck in. Conroy sets it down behind the net for, rather Belfour does for Conroy. He can't get it out. Kept in by Brown. The puck behind the Hawks net again. Sent up the boards, and Creighton shoots at the length of the ice. Only 5 seconds to go here in the period. The Blues in a 4-minute power play. Stevens to Ronnie at his own line, and that's it. There's the siren, and that is the end of the first period here at the stadium in Chicago. And Mike Keenan has to be mystified. His team has been shut out for 4 straight periods here by the Blues, losing 5-0 last Saturday night at the arena and down by 3 after a period. The Blues getting goals from Ron Wilson, Adam Oates, and Cliff Ronning. They outshoot Chicago 10-3 here in this first period. Again, after 20 minutes, the St. Louis Blues 3, the Chicago Blackhawks no score. This is St. Louis Blues hockey. Now stay tuned for Don Clark and Christine Buck. They'll have an update on the news, followed by Bob Ramsey and the Busch Sports Break.
Tom, we're just going to fill in radio, right? All right, we don't have an interview.
Your program is underwritten by Jacques Bouvier, luxury weekend review for the downtown Hyatt Regency Hotel.
What are we doing here? Are we filling? Yeah.
To Chicago Stadium. Ken Wilson and John Kelly. 3-0 Blues. Ready to begin the second period. 3 minutes in penalty time against the Hawks. Jocelyn Lemieux. The face-off at center ice. And here is John Kelly.
All right, Ken. Oates at center between Memesso and Hall. Stevens and Brown the point men. The Blues control the draw. Stevens now back behind his own goal for Brown. He sets it up on the power play. Up for Oates on left wing. He comes to center. Good pass to Brett Hall in right wing. A shot. And Belfour a save. Rebound. Chelios is there. And he'll backhand it by Stevens down the ice. And the Blues go back. The Blues in this game are 1 for 3 on the power play. As Brown to center. Left wing for Memesso. He'll flip it in. He goes in after it. He and Peluso in the corner. Now Oates sweeps it back on the point for Brown. Across for Stevens on the right point. Back for Brown. A shot on goal. A save by Belfour on a tip-in by Memesso. And Manson backhands the rebound down the ice. Here's Brown at his own line. Now to center ice. Pass knocked down by Creighton. He's got a breakaway. Here he comes. A shot. He scores! A short-handed goal.
Blackhawks lead the league in shorthanded goals. Now with 10 of them. The pass broken up by Creighton. He had McNeil leading interference. Riendo thought he had that waist-high shot, but off the glove it goes and just trickles in. Just inside the circle. Creighton with a slap shot, a 34-goal scorer last season. The former Sabre has struggled a bit this year. That is number 11. 3-1 Blues. Still 2:04 to go in the Blues power play.
Now off the draw, the Blues still in a power play. Here's Marois across the line, but McLean was pushed in offside at the Hawk line.
Well, coming up January the 3rd, the Quebec Nordiques will be at the arena. Kraft Light Singles Can Cooler Nut. The first 12,000 of you will receive the very handsome Kraft Light Singles Can Cooler. That's the Nordiques at the arena Thursday night, January the 3rd. The Blues' next game at the arena this Saturday night, the 29th, against Philadelphia. And that will be a college night.
It's 3-1. The Blues lead on a power play. Puck shot into the Hawk end. Manson back there, and he bounces it by Marois and down the ice. 1:44 left in the Blues power play. Now Featherstone lost it. He gets it back, though. He and Marois, the point men, up front, Ronning, Courtnall, and McLean. Now Ronning gets it. He's got a goal this evening. Pass to McLean at center. Hits the Hawk line. Works in on left wing now. McLean a pass, knocked down, and Larmer back to center ice. Larmer chased back in his own zone by McLean. Goes to clear it. Broke his stick. And Courtnall gets the puck. Courtnall to Brett Hull in front. A shot. And Belfour stick save. Now the puck loose on the near side. A Hawk player wants a face-off. That's Larmer. He's broken his stick. Now Ronning digs it free. Back on the point for Featherstone. Across to Brown. Back for Featherstone. Featherstone in front to Ronning. He lost it. Brett Hull gets it on left wing. Here's Hull. Back to Featherstone on the point. Now for Hull to Featherstone. Larmer has no stick. Now to Brown, to Featherstone, to Hull, a shot. He scores! Brett Hull from the left wing circle gets number 37, and the Blues lead 4-1.
Well, you can almost see that coming. Belfour seemingly got over in position as the Blues moved the puck against the motion in the offensive zone. But Belfour just was unable to snare it. Featherstone, very pivotal on this power play, had a chance to shoot, goes to the left wing side to Hall, and Belfour can't get a handle on it. And Hall gets another power play goal, his 12th, goal number 37. Boy, the Blues needed that after that shorthanded goal by Chicago, and they build their lead again to 3. Now it is 4-1 Blues, number 37 for Brett Hull. And if momentum is as important as Mike Keenan claims it is, his team had it, but it was for a very short time.
So Hull gets number 37 and power play goal number 12. And now the Blues are guilty of an icing call. The Blues have a 4-1 lead. This is St. Louis Blues hockey. It's 4-1 St. Louis. That goal Hall from Featherstone and Brown at 2:21 after Creighton scored a shorthanded goal at the 56-second mark. Face off to the right of Riendo. Hawks get it in front, but Bass in there for the Blues. And he flips one to Lowry at center ice. Long dump in. Here's Rich Sutter after the puck. In front to Lowry. And he was too closely checked by Manson. And the puck shot back to center. Marois at his own line for St. Louis. Off the boards. It goes to Manson in his own end. Up for Creighton. Gave it away at center. Here's Lowry. Shooting it right back in. Then he was knocked down. Now Dirk and Peluso get involved at center. Two tough guys as Dirk knocks Peluso down. And the linesmen jump in. Big Mike Peluso of the Blackhawks. 6'4", 200 pounds. And he takes on Robert Dirk, who's also 6'4", and weighs about 215. Not much of a fight, though. They go off. It's 4-1 St. Louis. This is St. Louis Blues hockey.
St. Louis penalty, number 37, Robert Dirk, 2 minutes for slashing and 2 minutes for roughing. Blackhawk penalty.
Robert Dirk gets 2 minutes for slashing and 2 minutes for roughing. Mike Peluso of Chicago gets only 2 minutes for roughing. Chicago will move onto the power play, and they are 0 for 2 tonight, but of course picked up a shorthanded goal. The Blues on the power play 2 for 5. And that's important because the power play has struggled over the last dozen games. The Blues just 3 for 55 on the power play, but 2 for 5 tonight. Now they're shorthanded.
Hawks, as Ken mentioned, 0 for 2 tonight on the power play. And they get a chance here, trailing 4-1. Hawks shoot it in. Creighton in after the puck. Back on the right point for Chelios. A shot! Hit Creighton in front. And the rebound kicked away by Snaps. And he gets it near the line, held in by Doug Wilson. Now Featherstone behind the net. Featherstone backhands it up the middle, and it goes all the way down the ice. And the Hawks go back. Remember, Chicago gave up 3 shorthanded goals in the Blues' 5-0 win on Saturday. Now the Hawks scoop it in. Larmer in after the puck on right wing. Back for Chelios on the right point. On the wing for Larmer. Lets it go, and he missed the net. And it's off the glass back near the left point. Held in by Doug Wilson. Into the near corner for Larmer. Larmer to Michel Goulet. Goulet back for Wilson. A shot. Pad save Riendo. Rebound clear to the corner. Larmer gets it. A minute left in the power play. To Goulet. Right wing to Larmer. Back to Chelios. A shot. And Rich Sutter blocked that. He's lost his stick. Can't clear it. Held in by Chelios. Chelios back on the right point. Sutter has no stick. Now Chelios, right point to Wilson. A shot. Sutter blocked that. Another shot by Chelios. Kicked away by Riendo. Now in the corner. Sutter ties up Lemieux. Play goes on. Now Sutter gets his stick. They center one. A shot there by Lemieux goes wide. Doug Wilson, right point. Across for Chelios. Back to Wilson. Now for Chelios on the left point. Into Goulet in front. Tipped away, though, by the Blues Sutter, but not out. Larmer kept it in. Behind the goal for Goulet. Now to Larmer near corner. Hawks in the power play. Larmer in front. Goulet can't shoot it. Chelios a shot. That goes wide. And Featherstone behind the goal. Memesso back on. And the puck cleared to center. Well, the Hawks had the puck in the Blues' end for about 2 minutes, but they did not score, and now the Blues are back at full strength, and they lead 4-1. This is St. Louis Blues hockey.
Guys were running around, weren't they?
The Blues have the second best penalty killing mark in the NHL, and I'll tell you, the penalty killing unit was tested that time. They were scrambling and running and battling, and Rich Sutter was superb without his stick, which he'd lost in the corner.
And the Hawks had a couple of shots during the power play, but no real great scoring chances. And the Blues maintain their 4-1 lead. 14:35 left, second period. Blues clear it in. Now Oates centers it, but Memesso checked by Thomas. He gave the puck back to Memesso at center. Now Memesso in left wing. Try to poke it ahead, knocked down. And the Blackhawks take over, and McNeil shoots it in. Brown behind his goal, around the boards. Now at center ice for Oates. One man back. Oates across the line. Goes around Nansen in on goal. A one-handed shot. And Belfour a stick save. And here come the Hawks again. Gilbert to center. Gilbert across the line. A shot. And a blocker save by Riendo. And it's off the glass and over the glass. And the faceoff will be in the Blues' end.
Well, can Adam Oates handle the puck? Well, the answer is very obviously yes. He wants to look for someone here. Momesso was back at his own blue line. He couldn't really go to anybody else, and you can see in his eyes that as he comes up ice that he knows he's all alone. Almost got around Dave Manson, but couldn't quite get himself in a position to take a shot. Last Saturday, a 3-point game with 2 goals for Oates against the Hawks in that 5-0 victory. The Blues lead in this one 4-1. Maybe as important as anything is the fact that the Blues have been very, very tough defensively. They have allowed Chicago only half a dozen shots tonight.
And the Blues have the best defensive record in terms of goals against. They've allowed only 93 this year, and that's tops in the league. Chicago's second. They've allowed 100. 4-1 the Blues lead. Now Creighton up front with Peluso and McGill, a couple of heavyweights on the wings here. The Blues counter with McLean, Bassett, and Courtnall. Hawks get the draw. Doug Wilson, a shot, and a stick saved by Riendo. And then McGill without a stick can't keep it in, and back comes Courtnall to center ice. Jeff Courtnall flips it in. Belfour left it behind the net for Chelios. Oh, Bassett nearly stole it. Now Courtnall gets it back to Featherstone, a shot, and that was 10 feet wide. Marois on the right point, held it in behind the net. Doug Wilson there, around to Peluso. Now it's center for Creighton. Into the blue zone. He was knocked down by Featherstone, and back is Jeff Courtnall, but that's called back on a 2-line offside pass. And play is called.
Well, these Hawks fans feel that they're not getting penalties against the Blues, but it's end-to-end. This game tonight here in Chicago brought to you by your local McDonald's restaurants, where there's always food, folks, and fun. Well, we've got plenty of fun here at this stadium. Blues led 3-0 after a period. Both clubs have scored once in this period, and these fans, for some reason, think that Kerry Fraser is calling it a little bit more favorably to the Blues and not overlooking penalties. But Kerry Fraser considered to be one of the top referees in the National Hockey League. Hawks Creighton scored in 56 seconds of this period, shorthanded, and then Hall scored his 37th at 2:21 on a power play, and the Blues have 2 of their 4 goals tonight with the man advantage.
Now the Blackhawks, Kuchera across the line, a shot, but it's offside. You know, Ken, one thing we talked about earlier, and the Blues coaches always talk about it as Dave Manson gets ready for the faceoff, the Hawks always begin quickly in their own building, but that's really a fallacy this year. In their last 9 games, the Blackhawks have had the lead after 1 period only 1 time, and that was in Sunday's win over Detroit. So at least in the last few games, they haven't been starting quickly.
And if you were to go without considering statistics, John, and just go back to the game we were here and last season in the playoffs and in the regular season when the Blues played well here, it's been a while since Chicago was dominating early in the first period against the Blues in this building.
About the only time they really did. Now the Hawks intercept, center in front. Riendo, a save on Ronick, who is set up in front. Now behind the net, Stevens for St. Louis. Up to Gino Cavallini. He'll tip one to center ice. Loose puck, Kuchera back at his own line. The rookie from Czechoslovakia. Up to Conroy. He'll play it in the blue zone. 7 minutes into the second period. The Blues lead 4-1. As they work to center, Wilson up on right wing to Brett Hull across the line. Oh, Kuchera got back and knocked it off Hull's stick at the last second. Now behind the goal. Gino Cavallini knocked Kuchera down, but Thomas gets the puck. Pass across. Fritz Sutter there. He kept it in. Good forechecking by the Blues. Wilson in the corner. Missed a check from Creighton. Now Wilson behind the Hawk goal. Overskates it. And Kuchera grabs the puck. Pass ahead for Ronick. He's bumped as he moves to center. And Featherstone scoops it high in the air, right back in. Behind the net, Kuchera. Up on right wing for Thomas. He comes to center, lost it. Stevens played it in there. Now Conroy for the Blackhawks. They work it ahead to Thomas on right wing. Into the blue zone. Now behind the goal, Goulet there. Can't center it. And Stevens picks it up for the Blues. Pass to center off Oates' stick. And it's drilled right back in by McGill. Here's Featherstone behind the Blues goal. He made a nice move. Up for Oates at center ice. Can't get to it. Now a puck picked up by Featherstone. Up to Oates across the line. In on right wing. A shot. And that's blocked by Manson. Now behind the goal. Oates overskates it. And McGill grabs it. Left wing feed for Michel Goulet. At center, that pass hit Memesso. Now Larmer drives it in. And a pass saved by Riendo. Puck in the near corner. Memesso for the Blues. Lost it. Larmer in front to Goulet. Back in the corner, but Steps was there to knock it around the boards. Held in by Manson, a wrist shot, and that's well wide. Now the Hawks after it again. Lemieux on right wing. In front, Goulet, a shot, and Featherstone blocked that. He dives and gets the puck to center. Oates is after it, but McGill got back and knocked it away. Now 11 minutes left in the second period. The Blues lead 4-1. Larmer back. He'll shoot it in. The Hawks in the midst of a line change. And that allows Marois to clear it down the ice. The puck goes through the goal crease, so there's no icing. Chris Chelios there for the Hawks. Up on right wing. Now for McNeil. Can't work into the blue zone as Stevens poked it away. Doug Wilson back at his own line for the Hawks. Left wing feed for Peluso too far. And again, Basson back in his own zone. Left wing to Courtnall. To Marois. Here's Mario Marois. Shooting the puck over the boards. Right at the Blackhawk bench. The Blues lead 4-1 midway through the second period. This is St. Louis Blues hockey.
Breakaway where Kucherov goes second. Tell him he seemed to hurt his left leg. If he has it to follow him.
On his last shift, Brett Hull had a breakaway. Kuchera, a great poke check, but Hull immediately had to leave the ice with his left leg injured. And it seemed as though Kuchera might have fallen on Hull's left ankle. We'll see if he comes back for his next shift, but he did leave and hobbled off, really favoring the left ankle.
Blues have a 4-1 lead. Hawks get the puck though. Here's Dirk Graham on right wing. A backhander. He scores! Dirk Graham!
You can't let anyone move in from the corner like the Blues just let Dirk Graham move in. From the point, Manson dumps the puck ahead. It goes off the Blues player. Graham is almost at the goal line in the corner and says, I've got an open lane. He comes in and seems to bank it off of a leg, maybe the leg of defenseman Robert Dirk.
And now the puck cleared over the boards. A Hawk player was there as well. But Graham made the move as he went to the net.
Dirk Graham gets the goal. Hull is back on the ice. And we all know how important that is for Graham, goal number 11. And that marker has excited the standing room only crowd here in Chicago. 4-2 Blues.
Well, now it's time for the Blues to settle down and not get rattled. The Hawks clear it in. Stevens back in the corner, bumped, gets one to center. Ron Wilson there. Now Graham at his own line ahead to Wayne Presley into the Blues zone. Presley on left wing. A shot. Brown blocked that. And Brett Hull for the Blues in that far corner. Hull kicks it ahead. Now Brown for Memesso on left wing up to Ron Wilson. Knocked down by the Hawks' Wayne Presley. Now the Blues, Brett Hull in offside at the Hawk line. It's 4-2 Blues. This is St. Louis Blues hockey.
Assisted by Manson at 9:43.
gets the goal, number 11. Manson the lone assist. 9:43 the time, and it is 4-2 Blues.
Now off the draw, Featherstone in his own end. Up for Lowry, too far. Goes down the ice. Doug Wilson back after it. Pass around the board. Paul McLean kept it in. Sends one to the near side. Lowry there. Left point to Steps. A shot knocked down in front. Pass in the rebound. Doug Wilson blocked it. And he falls on the puck. And we get a face-off. As Basson had a pretty good chance.
Bob Basson in a fight in the first period. Sneps lets it go from the point. It's knocked down. And Doug Wilson just sprawls in front of Basson's backhand shot. Folks, remember, when you're having good times with good friends, use good sense and drink responsibly. Please know when to say when. A reminder from Budweiser. Blues on the road, 11-6-0. They have the finest road record in the NHL. They have won 3 straight away from home. In fact, Chicago and the Blues both at the top of the league on the road. And of course, overall, the Hawks first overall in points. The Blues are second.
And the Blues lead this game 4-2. 9:12 left in this second period. Now the Hawks at their own line. Conroy backpedals up the middle to Lemieux. He and Featherstone collide. Now it comes to Manson on the near side. Here's Dave Manson out of his own zone off Conroy's skate. Rich Sutter has it. Pass ahead for Basson. Now Basson gets a bouncing puck ahead to Courtnall, but that's broken up by Manson. Back in on right wing. Manson around Featherstone. A save by Riendo as Manson cut around the Blues defense. And now the Blues clear the puck over the boards, and then Thomas pushes at Riendo. Let's pause 5 seconds for station identification. This is St. Louis Blues hockey.
There's no question the Blackhawks now have much more life than they had earlier. They have some things going well for them. Courtnall would have broken in alone had not Manson made a fine play. The defenseman makes a nice move on Featherstone, has a good chance, and seemed to hit Riendo in the mask with that shot. Riendo had gone down. Manson tried to go upstairs and hit Vince Riendo in the mask.
Lots of Blues fans here tonight, as usual. Doug Conger and Debbie Cords are here from Florissant. Also, John and Beth Harris want to say hi to folks back in St. Louis. The Blues lead 4-2. 8:35 left, second period. Face-off left to Riendo. The Blues get the draw. Stevens behind his net. Good pass to Oates. Up on left wing for Momesso. He can't get to the puck. And Chris Chelios back in his own end. His pass for Dirk Graham at center ice. Graham along, dumping off a leg. Puck goes to Brown in the corner. Up the boards for Momesso. He missed the puck at center. Now Chelios had it knocked down by Brett Hull across the line. A shot. That's off a stick. Here's Chelios on the far side. At center for Presley. He comes in on right wing, but Stevens got back and dragged his leg and knocked it away. Now behind the goal, Brown for the Blues. Around the boards, held in by Doug Wilson. A shot blocked by Hull. And here come the Blues, 4-on-2. Hull to center. Across the line to Brown. His pass into Hull, knocked away by Wilson. And the Blues never got a shot. Now Hull knocks it down. A shot! And he fanned on it. He was knocked down. And back come the Hawks. Graham. 3-on-1. Graham to Presley. A shot! Oh, and Dirk got back and knocked it away. What a play by Dirk. And now Dirk on the puck. Gets a face-off. And then Momesso gets a stick up on Dirk Graham.
What a play initially by Robert Dirk. Now Momesso will be penalized by Kerry Fraser. The Hawks playing better defensively, holding up the Blues a little more, seemingly getting back in the game. The Blues trying to keep control after a big early lead, and they lead it 4-2. This is St. Louis Blues hockey. corner, and Hall intercepts a Chelios pass. He tees it up, but Mike Hudson smashes him down, and the shot really never had much on it. Meanwhile, at the other end, Chelios gets the puck up to Graham. It's a 3-on-1 opportunity. Presley lets it go, and what a great reach by Robert Dirk. He was brilliant that time as a lone man back.
Hawks get the puck. Here's Wilson, right point to Larmer on the wing. Into the corner for Goulet. Now out high to Larmer. In for Goulet, side of the goal. Steps on him. Now Larmer comes in behind the goal. Lowry gets to the puck. Then Lowry scoops it off the boards back to center. Now the Hawks bring it right back in. Roenick flips it in behind the goal. Riendo scoops the puck up the boards for Ron Wilson, and he'll bat it down the ice. Less than 7 minutes left in the second period. The Blues lead 4-2. And the Hawks on the power play. Chelios, he'll race to center ice. Long dump in. Around the boards right in front. And Rick Sutter there to knock it off the puck player, but Chelios kept it in. Into Roenick in the corner. Merwan knocked it around the boards. Held in. Wilson, a shot. He scores!
Just tee it up, low shot, and he just cleanly seemed to beat Riendo. And the power play goal pulls the Hawks to within one. Doug Wilson with one of the great shots in the NHL. Larmer was there, but didn't seem to be able to reach it. And now the Blues lead is 4-3.
Now off the draw, the Hawks clear it in, but Stevens back for the Blues. Up to Momesso in left wing. Ahead for Oates across the line with Hull. Drop pass to Hull. He'll flip it wide. And Greg Gilbert back behind his own net. Pass up the boards to McNeil on right wing. Gets to center. Gets across the line. Stevens broken up. Now Oates can't clear. Lemieux a shot. And Riendo a blocker save on Lemieux. Lemieux in the corner. Shut by Oates. Up for Hall. He'll tip one ahead to Momesso. Momesso at center ice. Knocked down by Manson. And he'll get a penalty. And the Blues will get a power play.
Sergio Momesso was off. The Hawks score. Then Manson penalized for yanking down Momesso. Can the Blues come back and add to their lead? This is St. Louis Blues hockey.
Is third of the season, scored by number 24, Miles Wilson. Unassisted on the power play at 13:28. Blackhawk goal scored by Wilson. Unassisted on the power play at 13:28.
.14:10, the time of the 2-minute holding penalty to Chicago's Dave Manson. Momesso trying to get away at center ice. Gets bumped as much as anything. His stick held onto. And Kerry Frazier waves him off. The Blues, who have been outscored 3-1 in this period, are 2 for 5 tonight on the power play. And that's one of the real pluses of the evening because the power play has sputtered lately.
Now the Blues work in. Brown on left wing. Around the boards. Far corner for Gino Cavallini. Cavallini back on the point to Stevens. Right wing side for Oates. Oates on the right wing side. Looks in front. Now Oates into the corner for Gino Cavallini. Back to Oates on the right wing. Oates to Hull in the slot. Can't shoot it. And Chelios back to center. He rakes in on right wing. A shot. And he missed the goal. And Stevens back the other way. At center for Oates. He lost it. Graham back into Chelios on right wing. He can't shoot the puck. And the Blues come back. Brown out of his own zone now for Oates. In across the line around Larmer. To Hall. A shot. Bill for a save on Hall. And now play called, and behind the play, we have a Blues player and a Hawk player entangled. That's Chelios and Gino Cavallini.
Well, one linesman, Mark Vines, was with that pair. Kerry Fraser didn't know which way to go, and Hull almost scored at the other end. Try to say that officiating one of these games is easy. Chelios slips the puck nicely into the clear. This gives himself a nice pass. Jeff Brown was back, though, and that hampered Chelios from really getting a good shot away. The Blues come back. Meanwhile, Chelios and Gino Cavallini behind the play. Tangled up. Hall gets it in front, lets a low shot go. Belfour tends to go down early, tends to go down a lot. And that time for Belfour, he was fortunate because Hall tried to go between the pads. Chelios really carries the puck a lot. He loses it there, takes a bit of an elbow from Gino Cavallini, stuffs his glove in Gino's face. And the most veteran of all the Blues, not very happy about it. Chelios had his glove off, looked like he was about to belt Gino with the left hand. And as it turns out, they get coincidental minor penalties.
Blues lead 4-3 off the draw. Courtnall in front can't get a shot, and Doug Wilson hammers it down the ice. Now 1:05 left in the Blues power play. As Stevens goes back, gets the puck behind the net, up for Oates over his stick. Conroy at his own line. He gave it away at center. Brown back in for Courtnall, lost it. Now Oates near the line. Looks for an open man, had it poked away, but Brown at his own line covers up. Up for Stevens. He'll flip it in deep. Belfour now shoots it around the boards. Courtnall right there for the Blues. Into Oates behind the goal. Left point now for Stevens. On the wing to Hall. He scored from here moments ago. Back to the point, and Larmer tipped it by Stevens. Stevens at center. In for Brown on right wing. Jeff Brown gets it behind the goal. But Doug Wilson right there, and he clears it high in the air down the ice. Now 15 seconds to go in the Blues power play. Back at center is Brett Hull. Left it for Stevens. Pass behind everyone. Down the ice it goes, and Kuchera goes back. And icing called on St. Louis. So the Blues power play misfiring a bit here. What a turnaround. The Blues outscoring the Hawks 3-0 in period 1, but the Hawks have 3 goals to the Blues 1, and that doesn't make Brian Sutter very happy.
It certainly doesn't. Mike Keenan feels a little better. His team has come alive. There's no question about it. The Blues had pretty well stymied the Hawks. The forwards slowing them up along the wings, in the center of the ice, not letting them really get going. But now the Hawks in this period have tended to do that to the Blues quite a bit. You don't see much freewheeling from the Blues, getting stopped a lot at center ice. And the tide has definitely turned. The Blues now out shooting the Hawks only 15-12. Chicago had only 3 shots on goal in the entire first period.
Now the Hawks get the draw. They're back at full strength. Roenick in the far corner lost his stick. Puck comes free to Paul McLean. Ahead to Cliff Ronnie with Lowry. To Lowry in on left wing. Now he centers one. Kuchera knocked it away. And Kuchera feeds Dirk Graham. Or rather Goulet at center to Larmer. Back for Goulet in on left wing. Shoots one to the goal. Knocked away by Ronnie. Now the Hawks get the puck. Roenick into the corner for Michel Goulet. Ronnie on him. Now to Larmer. Centers in front. Oh, and Roenick tied up by Steps. And he never got the shot off. And here's Lowry to center. Into the Hawk end. Drop pass. And then it came outside the line as Ronnie brought it right back in. And now Lowry and Manson have words back in the Hawk end. And in comes big Robert Dirk.
Well, the officials cool that duo down. And we're down to 3:05 to go here in this period. 2 former Nordiques, Marois and Goulet. Goulet trying to center. And the Hawks moving the puck well. Goulet can't move it, then gets it over. And it comes right in front, but Roenick was well covered by Sneps and wasn't able to get a good shot away from very close range. Olive Garden Italian Restaurant's Pennant Flag Night is coming up Saturday, January the 5th. The New York Rangers will be at the arena, another one of the NHL's top teams, and the first 12,000 of you at the arena that night will receive an Olive Garden Italian Restaurant's pennant flag. Hope you'll be with us at the arena for that one.
3 minutes left in the second period. The Blues lead by 1. It's 4-3. At one time they led 4-1. Now the Blues forechecking. Bassett in the far corner. Courtnall knocked down, and back comes Doug Wilson. 3-on-2. In on left wing at Thomas. A shot. And Merwatt tipped it high off the glass. Now Dirk on the near side. Creighton digs it free to Thomas. Thomas on right wing. A shot. Off away. Wilson on the point. A blast. And that's stopped by Riendo. McGill right point kept it in. Behind the goal, but now Merwatt sweeps it around the boards and down the ice. It hits a stick and it doesn't go down the ice, so there's no icing. Now the Blues, Basson can't hold it in. Out to center is McNeil, the rookie. He'll scoop it in. Here's Brown behind his own goal. Up for Stevens. That's center to Basson in on left wing. Bassett works in. Centers one. They score! Basson centered it, and it hit a leg and goes in. And the Blues get a lucky one and lead 5-3.
Basson trying to get it in front for Jeff Courtnall, and that gets goaltender Ed Belfour moving a bit, trying to move away from the post. He's worried about the deflection in front by Courtnall. And now Belfour has more to worry about than that. Captain Hook, of course, Mike Keenan behind the bench. Basson all the way, now tries to flip it in front of the net. But it hits the Hawk defenseman, and then it totally handcuffs Belfour. You talk to any goalie, they'll tell you change of direction. Holy cow, that's what kills you.
Now the Hawks back in. Doug Wilson a shot. That's tipped over the glass. You know, Ken, I think that Basson's shot hit Belfour in the leg and Kiram did. I don't think it hit a Hawk defenseman.
Well, we could probably see it again. And I thought the defenseman that went into the corner after Basson, and that's Conroy. I thought it hit Conroy. And then, of course, bounced off of just about every part of goaltender Ed Belfour's body.
You're right. It did hit Conroy, but I think I was talking more around the goal area. It didn't go off a Hawk player in the goal crease, but it did go off a player in the corner, and it was deflected. So Belfour, I guess you could say, could be partly faulted on that.
He did not play it very well, even though the change of direction was pretty far away from the goal.
And that's, I guess, being generous. Well, the Blues lead 5-3 in this seesaw game. Less than 2 minutes to go in the second period. Now the Blues, Featherstone at his own line. Pass hit steps and stayed in there. Graham on right wing. Into Lemieux, a shot. And a save by Riendo. Far corner, Lemieux and Ragland fight for it. In comes Featherstone and Gilbert. Left point now to Doug Wilson. A shot. Way on, a save by Riendo. And he holds on. And a big pile up, and somewhere Riendo has the puck.
Well, the Blues facing adversity in this game here in the second period. Feeling the pressure, almost a playoff pressure type atmosphere after coming into the period leading 3-0. And that goal really helps by Basson to relieve some of that pressure, and good work moments ago by Riendo on that shot from well out. But the grand goal at 9:43, then the Doug Wilson goal on the power play at 13:28, moving Chicago to within 1 at 4-3, and then Basson scores from Stevens and Jeff Brown at 17:55. Jeff Brown, by the way, has 3 assists in this game here tonight in Chicago.
Blues lead by 2. 5-3 the score. Face off right of Riendo. Wilson on the draw against Roenick. And Ron Wilson won the face off behind the goal for Brown. To Stevens, up the left wing side to Lowry. He'll clear it in. Doug Wilson back there. Chops it ahead. And the puck comes to Larmer. Up to Goulet. He comes in on right wing. Now Goulet along the board. Centers it. And Riendo kicked the puck away to the far corner. Now a minute left in the period. And Lowry back on right wing for the Blues. Lowry bumps. And McLean wrists it in. Chelios in his own zone for the Hawks. Up the boards. Held in by Stevens on the left point. Shoots one behind the goal where Doug Wilson takes over. Up to Chelios on right wing. Now to Roenick at center ice. 4 Blues are back. And Stevens knocked Roenick off the puck, and Brett Hull wristed it back to center ice. Now half a minute left in the period. Here's Kuchera in his own zone. For Peluso to Creighton ahead, into the blue zone. Creighton, oh, a hip check, and look out as Stevens caught Creighton with his head down, and back comes Brown. Brown, a long shot, fell for a blocker save. Modesto gets the puck. Don't chop it in deep behind the goal. Kuchera is there for the Hawks. 10 seconds left in the period. Now Kuchera behind his goal. Up the right wing side at center for Creighton. Long shot, blocker save Riendo, and that will do it. The period comes to an end as now Marois and Peluso get their sticks up. And we'll get more penalties here at the conclusion of the second period. A wide open period featuring 5 goals, 3 by the Hawks and 2 by the Blues. And after 2, the score, St. Louis 5 and the Chicago Blackhawks 2. This is St. Louis Blues hockey.
Red Army team. Now it's time for a weeknight feature. Blackhawk Coca-Cola scoreboard, presented by the Chicago Night Fathers of Coca-Cola. Enjoy the great taste of Coke, Classic Coke, Diet Coke, Cherry Coke. On the third Blackhawk goal scored by Doug Wilson, the third of the season on the power play, with the assist to number 28, Steve Larmer at 13:28. The third Blackhawk goal scored by Wilson, assist by Larmer at 13:28.
Gift assist.
On the fifth St. Louis goal, scored by Bob Casson, with the assist to number 2, Scott Stevens, and number 9, Jeff Portgall at 17:55. Last St. Louis goal scored by Masson, assisted by Stevens and Portgall at 17:55.
$15 to 12, 15 to 2, right? Here in Chicago, the Blues lead 5-3 after 2, set for the third, and here's Ken Wilson.
And both teams begin the period at full strength. Jeff Brown dumps it in. Manson near his own net for Chicago. Right wing to Presley with Peluso and Lemieux. Hawks shoot it in. Sutter back for it. Hit by Peluso in the corner. Then Lemieux kicks it along the board, sends it back to Presley. He's run into by Rich Sutter. Jeff Brown gets it. Jeff Brown lifts it high. It just misses hitting the scoreboard over center ice. Manson at his defense, up to Lemieux. He's checked. Here's Jeff Courtnall in the center circle. Back to Stevens, over to Brown along the near side. And he'll shoot it in. And the veteran Dave Manson back for it for Chicago. Tied up in his own end. And Larmer gets it. Left wing feed to Conroy. Long shot. Glove save by Riendo. Stevens takes over in his own territory for the Blues. They lead it 5-3. Up to Courtnall. Courtnall over the line, working in, but it is offside. Blues at the 58-second mark. A couple of scoring changes. Each of the last 2 goals being changed. Doug Wilson's goal at 13:28 on the power play. They added an assist to Steve Larmer. And then on the Basson goal at 17:55 of the second period, Stevens still has his assist, but Courtnall has been given an assist now rather than Jeff Brown.
Blues lead 5-3 when they lead after 2 periods this year. Their record one of the best in the National Hockey League. 14-2-2 with a lead after 2. Meanwhile, the Blackhawks, when trailing after 2 periods, their record only 1-9-1.
Hawks have the puck. Chelios ahead to Graham on the right wing, around Dirk into the slot. Backhand shot, hits a skate. Loose puck in front. And Momesso skates through to take it. Momesso up the left wing at his own line into the middle to Ron Wilson. He'll flip it in. Hull is the other forward. Mario Marois, Robert Dirk on defense. It comes to the left point to Dirk along the boards behind the Chicago net, and Doug Wilson there. He'll play it to center ice, and here's Marois flipping it high, and it'll come down into the crowd below us, and that'll stop play a minute and a half into the third period with the Blues leading it 5-3.
And Vince Riendeau and Curtis Joseph, the Blues' 2 goaltenders, they've had some great defense played in front of them the last couple of weeks. The Blues have not allowed a goal in the third period in their last 5 games. And in their last 9 third periods, Brian Sutter's team has outscored the opposition 15-2. So 2 goals in the last 9 third periods. That really is remarkable.
Can they do it again? Can the Blues maintain their undefeated streak, which is now at 8 games, second longest in the NHL this season? Blues have it in their own end, can't get out. Larmer's shot from the point off snaps to Lowry. On with Oates and McLean. At center ice, Larmer intercepts, trying to break in, is slowed up. The puck slips to Riendeau. He clears to the boards. Goulet there for Chicago, but Passon steals it. Ahead for Paul McLean at the center red line. He'll shoot the puck in for the Blues. Belfour vacates the crease, steers it up the boards, and Roenick is creamed by Bassett to McLean in front. He waits. Down is McGill. McLean can't get a shot. Good work by McGill. And Larmer takes a pass at center ice and shoots it high over the glass and into the crowd behind Vince Riendeau. 5-3, the Blues lead it. This is St. Louis Blues hockey.
Early third period, and the Blues have played well in the early going, Ken. That's a good sign.
Here are the Hawks. Conroy at center ice. His pass ahead for Thomas. He can't get his stick on the puck, and Oates has it with Sutter. Oates drives it in into the corner. Conroy beats Sutter to it. Quickly up to Thomas. He's stopped by Stevens. Courtnall with a puck, falls down at his own end. Steve Thomas has it into the corner. Now behind the net, Steve Thomas, far side, back to the right point. Manson a shot, tipped just wide by McNeil. McNeil a wraparound, loose puck in front. Riendeau down, a battle for the puck. It's still loose. Now behind the net, centered, and Rich Sutter there to intercept and clear the zone. Manson at his own line for Chicago, up to Steve Thomas. Intercepting is Stevens. Stevens over the line, backhands the puck in. Manson takes control behind the Chicago net. Well up on the left wing to Thomas. He carries it to center ice, winds her up, and a shot off Riendeau's blocker. Marois in the corner, up the boards for Oates. He's creamed. Puck comes to center ice, and Hall has it. He'll circle back into his own zone. Brett Hull loses the puck to Mike Hudson. He'll give it to Chelios. In over the line, wrist shot off of Marois and over the glass and into the crowd. Boy, you just kind of sit on pins and needles here, waiting for somebody to get a break. You get that feeling if the Blues could get a goal, that could put an end to the Hawks tonight.
Hawks had some pretty good pressure, and McNeil tried to wrap around, but Riendeau got his skate over, and then what a pile up in front of the Blues goal. And Riendeau, with the help of Stevens and Marois, kept the puck out of there. Other Blues fans here tonight, the Hogan family here from Belleville, Illinois. Also, Tom and Bill want to say hello to George Evans in Evanston, Illinois, and would like to wish a Merry Christmas to the Anderson family down in Palestine, Texas. Big Blues fans watching tonight's game.
16:34 to go in the third. Both teams at full strength. The Blues have a 2-goal lead. The face-off near Riendeau. Won by Lemieux to Doug Wilson. Screen shot right on. And I don't know how Riendeau ever saw that, but he's down to make the save. That patented Doug Wilson drive. This one sailing low along the ice. And that face-off pivotal again.
And we all know how hard Doug Wilson can shoot the puck. Paul Cavallini knows better than anyone. He had his fingers smashed the other night as Wilson got it back in the left point. And that was through a maze of players in front. And Riendo a big save. Paul Cavallini is not the only player to feel the brunt of a Doug Wilson shot. Earlier in the NHL career of Wilson, he had Dwayne Sutter in the cheekbone, Brian's younger brother, and it smashed Sutter's cheekbone and nearly was a very severe injury. So it's a good idea, Ken, when he shoots, to get out of the way.
Blues get the puck in their own zone. It's cleared out by Momesso, and Doug Wilson goes back for it in his own end. He'll give it to Chelios. Up front, Lemieux with Graham and Gilbert. Chelios drives it over the glass and into the crowd. That stops play, and this is St. Louis Blues hockey.
Back to the point, left point, down front. Darryl turns around.
Hey, Tom, give me a shot of Millen when you get a chance, when we get a second, all right? Yeah, but make sure we have some time.
Ready for this face-off. Cliff Ronning against Adam Creighton, and Ronning wins the draw at center ice to Stevens. Over to Brown. Back to Ronning. He has Raglan on his right, Gino Cavallini on his left, and the Blues are stopped at the Chicago defense. Now Ronning again over the line, and he's poke checked. Chelios ends up with a puck. He's ridden to the boards by Raglan in the corner, who takes it. Back to Jeff Brown. A shot right on, and a good save by Belfour. The puck to Chelios. He leads a 3-on-2 rush over the line. His shot partially blocked by Stevens, right to Riendo, and he smothers the puck. He gets whacked at his glove a bit, and the Blues take exception, and Raglan goes blasting into the corner. Adam Creighton is right there as if to say, okay, young man, who do you want to speak to? I'm a head taller than you are. And the officials come between the players in the corner near Vince Riendo.
That all began after Chris Chelios moved the puck up ice. And his shot was blocked by Stevens, who makes a very nice play. He goes down and does a perfect job of getting his leg on it. And then Riendo covers up, and then Peluso comes in and whacks at Riendo's hand. And that's why Rich Sutter came in and smacked Peluso. Teammates don't take kindly to players chopping at their goaltender's glove when he has the puck. And what a job Scott Stevens has done for the St. Louis Blues this year. 2 goals, 19 assists. He's a +10. But more importantly, Ken, he's played strong every night. And to me, he's been worth every penny the Blues are paying him this year.
He has a fabulous presence on the ice. A lot of little things happen that might not meet the eye, and the other players all know where he is when he's on the ice. The opponents especially. Does a great job and is an enforcer, and he can do it quietly sometimes. Puck from the draw along the boards in the Blues zone. Larmer gets it, tries to center, is rejected. Then Larmer battling along the boards with Rich Sutter, and Conroy's shot from the point deflected in front of Riendo and out of play. And that stops play with 15:31 to go in this third period. Let's pause 15 seconds for station identification. This is St. Louis Blues hockey. Tomorrow at 5 on Growing Pains, Ben's got a big problem, and he turns to Mike for a little advice. That's Growing Pains tomorrow at 5 on St. Louis 11. Play resumes in the Blues zone, and the Blues clear the puck out. Back it comes to Belfour, leaves it for Doug Wilson. He leaves it for his teammate Steve Larmer. Larmer comes to his own line. Then Chelios has to help him out. 15:10 to go in the third. To Doug Wilson. He hands it to Rich Sutter. Slap shot, and a glove save by Belfour on Rich Sutter, who had to be the most surprised man in Chicago. He is just trying to do some good forechecking with Bob Bassett. They were doing that, and it led to a fine scoring chance.
And you often hear coaches talk about good forechecking. Well, good forechecking leads to turnovers, and that's what happened there as the Hawks coughed the puck up. And Rich Sutter, who has not scored a goal in his last 5 games after getting 4 in 3 games, found himself wide open in the slot, and Belfour, who has a habit of going down a bit early, he was going down there, Ken, but he was lucky to get his glove up, and he snared Rich Sutter's high slap shot.
Good defense starts in the other team's end with your own forechecking. And it's defense the Blues want to play. They have a 2-goal lead here in Chicago with 15:03 remaining in the 3rd period. Trying to run their unbeaten string to 9 straight. Face off, a bouncing puck to Greg Gilbert with Jocelyn Lemieux and Dirk Graham. They shoot it in. Riendo can't stop it. Behind the net. Graham unable to center. The puck comes to Paul McLean. In the middle to Lowry. He's on with Oates. Lowry over the line. Trying to move past Kuchera. And Gilbert back to take a loose puck. He loses it. Then Dirk can't keep it in at the point. Shoots it behind the net. The Blues will come back and put themselves onside. That gives Manson some skating room. He weaves his way to center ice. Long slap shot and a stick save by Riendo. Moving in on the right side. Roenick, he can't come in front. Then Marois dumped down. He has the puck under his body along the boards behind the Blues net, and referee Kerry Fraser stops play. And there's 14:22 left on the clock.
Well, we'd like to remind fans that U Street Hockey Stick Night is coming up January 15th when the Blues host the Washington Capitals. Good seats remain for the game. Call 434-6600. That's Nestle Chunky U Street Hockey Stick Night on January 15th against the Capitals. The Blues' next game tomorrow in Toronto will be on the air at 7:30 tomorrow as the Blues meet the Maple Leafs, another Norris Division game. And then the Blues are home Saturday against the Philadelphia Flyers. A few seats do remain for that game.
Blues 11-4-1 in Norris Division games this season. And of course 1-2 against Chicago. They lost here 3-2. Their only other meeting at the stadium, that was back on December 2nd. From the draw, the Blues are called for icing. The Blues with a 5-3 lead, and they are looking to move to within 3 points of first place Chicago. And the Blues, of course, have 4 games in hand on the Blackhawks.
And they will make up 3 of those games in January when the Blues have 13 games. And Mike Keenan's Blackhawks, a light schedule, they have 10 games. Did I say tomorrow's game's at 7:30?
You did, and it is at 7:30 in Toronto.
Right.
So you were right.
6:30 in St. Louis, so we don't confuse anyone.
And for those who might listen to the far reaches of the radio network, out west, it's another hour. Blues stop. Here come the Hawks back. Goulet, right wing to Larmer. He can't get around Sneps, who makes a good play. In the corner, Larmer. He walks in on the front of the net. He scores! Oh, my. Larmer moves alone in front, and Chicago's back to within 1.
Well, you can't allow Larmer to walk in front like that. He worked into the far corner, and then no Blues player went to him, and Larmer says, okay, I'll walk in front, and he'll score 9 out of 10 times from there, and he puts a top corner over Riendo's glove hand, and it's now a 1-goal game, but the Blues allowed Larmer to walk right in front. Both defensemen were busy, but you can never be too busy when Steve Larmer has the puck.
Number 25 for Larmer. Here come the Hawks again, shooting it in. They'll center, and there to intercept is Bassett. Up the boards for Sutter. He'll clear the puck back into the Chicago end. The time of that goal, 6:08. Larmer's 25th. Blues keep the pressure on. Presley in his own end, bumped by Bassett. He can't get it out. No, he does. He brings it to center ice. Batted down, brought back in offside by Dirk. 13:28 left in the 3rd period. 5-4 St. Louis. This is St. Louis Blues hockey.
Assisted by number 16, Michelle Goulet, and number 7, Jess Kelly, at 6:08. Blackhawk goal scored by Larmer, assisted by Goulet and Kelly at 6:08.
Well, there goes the Blues shutout streak in the third period. Larmer gets his 25th from Goulet and Chelios at 6:08, and the Blues lead is 5-4.
At center ice, Creighton for Chicago. He can't move in around. Stevens is taken to the glass, and the plate of glass comes out, and that'll stop play as Steve Thomas and Rich Sutter do some bumping. Well, John Kelly, so much for defense from the Blues side. They still have to play defense, but a 1-goal lead is much different than a 2-goal lead in how you approach the play.
Well, you can't sit back nearly as much with a 1-goal lead, and I'm sure Brian Sutter was not happy with the way the Blues played that last Hawk rush when Larmer was allowed to walk out of the corner. One thing Brian Sutter does, though, whenever a goal is scored, he'll nearly always put his best checking line on the ice right after that goal, and he did that when he put out Bass and Sutter and Courtnall, and now the glass is loose on the near side, and we'll have a slight delay with the Blues up by 1.
Well, folks, the St. Louis Blues, Coca-Cola Classic, Schnucks, and the St. Louis Metro Rink Association are sponsoring this year's NHL Future Stars competition. And the youth skills competition is being held at area rinks around St. Louis tomorrow at 10 in the morning. The competition is out at North County at 2 tomorrow afternoon at Afton. Then on the 28th at 12:15 at Webster Groves. New Year's Eve at 9:30 in the morning at Kirkwood. January the 3rd, 6:30 in the evening at Brentwood. And then on January 21st, the competition at 12:15 at South County. That's the NHL Future Stars competition going strong in our city of St. Louis. This crowd, the 62nd consecutive sellout at Chicago Stadium, 18,472, is going strong. Action resumes. Hawks win the draw on a Doug Wilson shot wide. Chelios centers. Larmer can't get a shot. Back to the point, a drive right on, and the save by Riendo on that shot by Roenick. And the Blues to center ice, but they can't hold the puck. Chelios gets it, shoots it right back in. Under 13 minutes to go. Marois plays it around to Lowry. He can't do anything with a puck. Now Goulet centers in front. Doug Wilson. A backhand shot wide. Here's Snets behind the goal. He can't gain possession. And finally Mario Marois does. Off the boards to center ice with it. Doug Wilson leaves it there for Chelios. Boy, he's really offensive minded. In over the line. Slap shot. That's well wide. Doug Wilson pinches in from the left point. Sends it behind the net to Larmer. He centers. Snets knocks it away. It comes bouncing in front. Roenick carries to the corner. Roenick into the circle. Roenick out near the blue line to Doug Wilson. A blast right on. Big save Riendo on Doug Wilson. In front, Chelios. His backhander stopped by Riendo. Another shot by Larmer wide. And the puck rebounds all the way back into the Chicago end. Both teams are changing. 8 minutes have been played in the third period. Roenick drives it in again. Scott Stevens back for it. The Blues have to weather the storm here. Stevens carries to center ice over the line to Oates. He flips the puck wide of the net. It comes in front from Hall. And a shot by Momesso is blocked. Momesso along the far boards. Bumped by Kuchera. Graham also there for Chicago with Goulet. And Graham shoots the puck out. Jocelyn Lemieux after it. In over the line. Slowed up by Brown. He centers and Oates is there to take over. He clears ahead, too far for Momesso. Frantisek Kuchera, number 6 for Chicago. Sends it back to Manson in his own end, up to Gilbert. He'll fire it in right on, and a save by Riendo. The Blues in their own territory, around to Momesso. Now ahead at center to Oates, over to Jeff Brown. Brown to the Chicago line, cuts to the right wing boards. In the slot, the Holler shot! Blocked by Jocelyn Lemieux. Working to center ice, Dirk Graham. He'll shoot the puck in, and Chicago and the Blues change again. Jeff Brown in his own zone with a bouncing puck to Oates. Behind the net to Stevens. Up for Gino Cavallini. Here come the Blues on the attack. Gino Cavallini over the line to Hall, a pass in front, and Oates had gone the other way. End-to-end action. Adam Creighton this time for Chicago. Over the Blues line. Drops it. Steve Thomas, a blast. Riendo out to make the save, and then Steve Thomas tries to trip Riendo. There'll be a penalty. The Blues to center ice. They're stopped, and the penalty will be against Chicago's Steve Thomas. What an opportunity here for the Blues. There's 10:36 to go in regulation play. The Blues 5, the Hawks 4. This is St. Louis Blues hockey.
minutes for interference at 9:24.
Presley gets an interference call at 7:24 as Vince Riendeau was knocked down after making a save. Thomas let the shot go from the right wing side, and then Presley came in and put a stick between Riendeau's legs, knocked him down. And the Blues, 2 for 6 in the power play, and a 5-4 lead, get a chance after Ken really a needless penalty on Presley's part.
Yeah, Presley was there. Thomas had made the play, and it was Presley who upended Riendeau. Now Graham back in front to Larmer, and his shot stopped at point-blank range by Riendeau. A pass at center ice to Ronning, gets away. The puck bounces to Larmer. He moves in, one man back, but he has trouble with a bouncing puck and just shoots it in behind the St. Louis net. Stevens has it. A frantic pace here. Stevens stripped by Graham, but Brown takes over. Jeff Brown stick handles to the Chicago line. Moves in. Shoots it behind the net. It bounces right in front. And Graham there for Chicago to clear the puck away. 1:20 to go in the Blues power play. The Blues lead is 5-4. The Hawks have scored the only goal in this third period. The Blues led after a period tonight 3-0. Now Courtnall up the ice as he moves in. Poke checked nicely by Chelios. The Blues have the man advantage, and the puck is held against the boards deep in the Chicago zone for a stoppage in play. 1:06 to go in Presley's penalty. 9:42 remaining in the third period.
Former Norris Trophy winner Chris Chelios, he's played, I would say, 30 minutes so far in the game, and we still have 9:42 to go in the third period. But Chris Chelios is on the power play every time, kills penalties, and is a great all-around player for the Hawks. And now with the face-off to the right of Belfour, the Blues can get their top power play unit out there. Oates at center between Hull and Courtnall with Stevens and Brown back on the point. You know, one statistic that really troubles me, Ken, Jeff Brown has only one power play goal all year long, and he plays on virtually all power plays.
Hawks win the face-off. Chelios behind his net out to Gilbert. A feed at center ice, too far for Roenick. It goes the length of the ice. Roenick back, tries to get around Stevens and move in front, does some fancy work, and then Stevens ends up with a puck behind the net, leaving it there for Adam Oates. 45 seconds to go in the Blues power play. Here comes Oates out of his own zone to the red line, to the Chicago defense, and it's offside St. Louis. And there are 38 seconds to go in the Blues man advantage situation, and in this spot the Blues often look to number 16, Brett Hull, who scored his 37th of the season back in the second period.
And Hull well ahead of his pace from a year ago. Now with 37 goals, he did not get his 37th goal last year until the 43rd game. And this is the 36th game for Hull this year, so he's well ahead of his 72-goal pace from last year.
A Blues power play, a center ice face-off. Hawks now have outshot the Blues 27-21. Doug Wilson gets the puck up to Larmer into the St. Louis zone. Slap shot off the chest of Riendeau, and Stevens takes the puck. Here come the Blues up the ice on to Momesso, left wing over the line, trying to cut in. Centers, no one there. Now Hull's shot, and that's gloved by Belfour, and the puck cleared the length of the ice. 10 seconds to go in the St. Louis power play as both teams change players. Brown in his own end to Dirk. At center ice, too far for Oates. Manson tries to move ahead, does to Creighton. Left side to Thomas. A shot, the save, they score! On the rebound, Adam Creighton.
Save. The puck goes up in the air, and then Creighton knocks it out of mid the game. Creighton's second of the game, 12th of the year.
Play resumes at center ice. Thomas shoots the puck in. Robert Dirk back for it. He's on defense with Merrill. Can't get it out. Kuchera's shot. The save. Presley a drive. They score! And the Blackhawks take the lead. Oh, is this place rocking now?
The rebound. He was stopped the first time, but then he gets his own rebound and jams it in. And the Hawks lead for the first time. Listen to the crowd here in Chicago.
Get 2 goals in 13 seconds to tie it and take the lead. They shoot the puck in again. Gino Cavallini back for it. Around to Raglan. He's hit by Gilbert. The puck comes to Marawan. Ahead too far for Gino Cavallini. The Blues need some defense and some hitting. Raglan takes down Kuchera. Then a loose puck at center ice. And it's picked up by Jocelyn Lemieux. Back to Manson on the defense. Over to Kuchera. He'll shoot it in from his side of the red line. Wide of Riendo. Dirk touches it. And it's an icing call against Chicago. The Hawks have scored 5 of the last 6 goals in this game. And they lead at 6-5. This is St. Louis Blues hockey.
The Blues had a 4-1 lead, but it's now in favor of the Blackhawks. They lead 6-5, and this marks the first time all year the Blues have allowed more than 5 goals in a game. But still lots of time left, 7:44.
They face off to the right of the Chicago goal. Sutter gets the puck to Basson along the boards. He's pinned there. The puck squirts loose. Manson behind his net up on the right wing to Presley, who runs into Sneps as he pinches in. And then a maze of players along the far boards. Presley wants to freeze it and is having trouble doing that. Then Courtnall checked down by Thomas. Thomas trying to get it out. Can't. Courtnall in front. He shoots. And it goes off the side of the net. Hawks can't get it out. Here's Rich Sutter in the near corner centering. And somehow Belfour slides along the goal line and smothers the puck. And the Blues come back with some pressure of their own. And play stop with 7:11 remaining.
Well, the Blues had a couple of good chances there. Sutter centers to Courtnall. And Courtnall, I don't know if he got a stick on this or not, but Belfour got over and held on with Jeff Courtnall in the goal crease and looking for the tying goal. Those 2 quick goals, Creighton tied the game as 12 from Thomas and Manson at 11:27. 13 seconds later, Presley made it 6-5, his 7th from Creighton and Kuchera. And it's 6-5 Hawks with 7:11 left in the 3rd period.
The Blues tonight with goals from Ron Wilson, Adam Oates, Cliff Ronning, and Brett Hull. Hull's goal at 2:21 of the 2nd period made it 4-1. Chicago has scored 5 of the 6 since. From the face-off, the Blues unable to keep the puck in the Chicago zone. Now it's center ice. Dirk too far for Hull. Doug Wilson's pass doesn't connect. And here's Adam Oates flipping the puck in. Chris Chelios plays it at his own line. Up to Jeremy Roenick. He sees some heavy traffic but avoids Dirk's check. Now cuts in on the right wing. Centers. Loose puck. And it's tipped wide of the net. Oates clears it up the boards. Roenick gets it to Doug Wilson. His shot wide. Here's Chelios in from the right point. A pass behind the net for Goulet. He can't center. Larmer behind the goal. Centers it. And Oates takes the puck, hands it to Roenick, and he smashes it off the goal post. And Hall backhands the puck down the ice. The Hawks hit the goal post. Chicago sends it ahead to Snaps. Over to Marois. He'll shoot it in from the red line. Out of the corner it comes to the side of the net. And Chelios picks up the puck as both teams change players. His pass goes down the ice. There'll be no icing. And Marois backcourt behind his own net. He's hit. Centering. Graham. Gilbert a shot. That's blocked. In the corner. Gilbert. His pass behind the net. No one there for Chicago. Here's Cliff Ronning deep in his own end. Leaving it in the corner for Marois. His soft pass back to Ronning up the middle to Lowry. And Lowry is dumped down. No call. Lowry gets up. Barks at Kerry Fraser. Now the Hawks. Manson deep in his own end. Stick handles to the blue line. Comes to the red line. And then slows up and just flips the puck in. And the Blackhawks with a 6-5 lead and 5:30 to go are changing. Lowry runs into Presley and knocks him down. But the Hawks keep the puck in the blue zone. Lowry gets it and he'll start out with McLean and Ronning. Lowry winds up a shot off of Conroy. He'll get the puck ahead to Creighton. Creighton will shoot it in and the Blues go back in their own zone. Jeff Brown behind the net. Clears to the corner. Up with a puck is Stevens. Over to Brown. To center ice. Shy of the red line. He'll bounce it in. Backcourt Bob McGill. He'll touch it. And it is an icing call against the Blues. The Blues in this period have been held to only 4 shots on goal. Chicago has had 16. And the Hawks lead it. This is St. Louis Blues hockey.
Tried to send Dave Lowry in, but he was hooked down at the line by Kuchera, but Kerry Fraser looked the other way. And then back in the Hawk zone, Lowry really with a stiff check on Presley. Meanwhile, the Blues trail by 1, 5 minutes left. Here come the Blues out of their own end. Hull at center ice against McGill. Out of Courtnall, a shot. And that shot is blocked. Here are the Blues. Courtnall, a wraparound attempt and the save. Hawks can't clear. Brown a shot. He scores from the right point. Jeff Brown moves in and drills it home from the top of the circle. And the Blues come back to tie it at 6 with 4:43 to go. Jeff Brown. Well, good work by Courtnall behind the goal. He was hit by McGill, but he kept on going, trying to wrap around. Then the Hawks tried to clear it away, but Brown will pinch in from the right point and blast one through the legs of Belfour. That was through a couple of Hawk players and through Belfour's legs as well. And Brown gets number 4 at 15-17, and it's 6-6. And Ken, we talked earlier, without Paul Cavallini for a couple of weeks, Jeff Brown has to step in, and he did there. He ties it at 6. And the Blues, as action resumes, have the puck in their own end. Marois on defense with Dirk. Oates up front now with Hall and Momesso. Chicago had scored 3 straight goals. They intercept. Gilbert a backhander block. And Hall comes to center ice, runs into Doug Wilson, but scoops it into the Chicago end. Chelios back for it. He's checked inside his line by Oates. Finally moves it ahead. And Marois has the puck in his own end for St. Louis. Too far for Oates at center ice. He and Doug Wilson collide. Greg Gilbert gets it. Ahead to Roenick, in over the line. Forced to the boards, and Oates sends the puck ahead to Hull, but it is offside. That pass from inside the St. Louis line out over the center red line, and we're down to 3:59 to go in the period. Well, Jeff Brown's unassisted goal has put the Blues back in the game, and you want to read all about that big goal in tomorrow's St. Louis Post-Dispatch. For home delivery of the Post, call 622-7111. Let's pause 5 seconds for station identification. This is St. Louis Blues hockey.
6-6 with 3:59 to go. Face off in the Blues zone. A shot from the blue line by Kuchera and a stick save by Riendo. Brown behind the net. He and Snep's team on defense. Sutter, Basson, and Courtnall on the ice up front. Up to center ice to Courtnall. Back to Basson. Blazing in on the right side. His shot off of Kuchera and wide. Presley gets the puck. He can't get it by Sutter along the far boards. He's knocked down by Creighton, but centers. No one there for the Blues. Kuchera. His pass for Presley tipped away by Sneps at center ice. Courtnall brings it in over the line to Basson. Nice shot, and it's tipped wide by Ed Belfour. Good chance by Bob Basson. Here's Steve Thomas to center ice for the Hawks. He can't get around the Blues, and Stevens with it. Now to Courtnall, in over the line. Courtnall, and 3 Hawks combined to stop him. Larmer gives it to Roenick. He carries the puck over the Blues line into the corner. Dumps it behind the net. Now to the far side to Larmer. Right point. Chelios, a wrist shot knocked down by Ron Wilson. He'll start a rush. Up the middle. He winds up. And the shot off the blocker of Belfour. And Chelios deep in his own end for Chicago. 2:50 to go. 6-6. We talked about defense at the start of the evening. What's happened to that? Here's a Ron Wilson backhander that trickles wide. And Larmer clears it out to Goulet, and he can't get around Robert Dirk. And Goulet spins Stevens down, and Roenick flips the puck high, and it comes down in the corner near the Blues net. Dirk puts on the brakes, falls down, gets up, ties up Goulet, loose puck, and it comes to Stevens, who smashes it off the glass to center ice. There's 2:20 to go in the third period. It's 6-6. The Blues and the Blackhawks. Hawks dump it in. Riendo pokes the puck away from Graham. Lowry hit hard by Jocelyn Lemieux, and the Blues clear the puck out. Brought back in offside by Dave Manson, and the whistle stops the action with 2:10 to go in regulation time.
Well, Blues fans, when you've got a major thirst, and I'm sure Riendo does now, don't just reach for a beer. Head for the mountains and the refreshingly smooth taste of Busch beer. At 6-6, that tying goal, Brown unassisted at 15-17, his 4th of the year. And you know, Ken, looking back at this third period, it hasn't been a good one for the Blues, as they've allowed 3 goals. But it got away from them when they let the pace get too quick. Give the Hawks credit, they played well, but the Blues didn't do the smart things in the period, like take a lot of icing calls and try to slow the game down.
No question, it got too frantic, too quick. Here the Blues ice the puck. Chelios back for it. And with 2 minutes to go, the faceoff will come back near Vince Riendo. Well, Adam Creighton has led Chicago with a pair of goals, his 11th and 12th. The Busch play of the game is his goal that he batted out of the air to beat Riendo.
What a goal. As Thomas let the shot go from left wing, Riendo made the save, lost the rebound, and Creighton with his stick about waist high knocked it in, and that tied the game, and that is our Busch play of the game.
So Adam Creighton with a pair of goals. Graham, Doug Wilson, Larmer, and Presley have also scored for Chicago. Blues, Oates wins the faceoff in his own end. Marois has the puck, but Sneps takes out a Hawks player, Larmer, and that dislodges the goal behind Riendo. The Blues goal scorers, Ron Wilson, Adam Oates, Cliff Ronnie, Brett Hull, Bob Basson, and Jeff Brown to tie it here at 15-17 of the third period.
Other Blues fans here tonight. Jerry and Gino say hello to Elise and Jim Cunningham. And Joe Mace would like to say hello to his wife and kids back in St. Louis. Other fans here, Dwayne Cason, Tim Marlin, and Mark Perron are here tonight, and they've seen a whale of a game. This reminds me of a game last year between those two teams. When 4 of the 8 games last year, the winning team had 8 or 9 goals in the series, and prior to this game tonight, Ken, the 3 games had been rather low scoring.
Neither of these teams allow many goals, but they have gotten together tonight for a dozen. Hawks win the draw. Manson right point, a shot. Ooh, great save, Riendo. That one got there in a hurry. In the corner, Jocelyn Lemieux centering, hits the side of the net. Then Marois hands it to Lemieux, whose shot is blocked up high by Riendo, and the puck cleared out. Conroy for Chicago back in his own end. Bumped by Rich Sutter ahead to Gilbert. His feet on the right side to Jocelyn Lemieux in over the line. Gilbert goes to the net. The pass turned away by Marois. The Blues send the puck up the right wing boards, not out. Conroy keeps it in. 1:23 to go. Tied at 6. Here's Graham out of the corner. A shot! And it goes off Sneps just wide. Then into the corner, Roenick. Roenick plays it behind the net. Marois takes Gilbert down. Sneps gets the puck up to Courtnall. The Blues on the attack. Right wing for Basson, too far. Conroy takes the puck, dumps it to center ice. 1:04 to go. Back into the Blues zone. Jeff Brown with it up to Courtnall in his own line. Having trouble with a bouncing puck, and Goulet has it for Chicago. He'll backhand it into the corner. Jeff Brown back. Plays it. Not out. Kept in by Roenick. And finally, it is held, and there'll be a face-off. This game is down to the final 48 seconds in the third period. The Blues 6 and the Hawks 6.
Would you take a tie right now, Blues fans? I don't know. You had a 4-1 lead at one time. The Hawks came back and took a 6-5 lead, but Jeff Brown's goal, it's 15-17. That's tied the game once again. But even if the Blues are to win tonight, Ken, you don't like to see a team lose a 4-1 lead.
They led 3-0 after a period. Stevens for the Blues in his own end to Hall. He'll shoot the puck into the corner. Karam's out in front and played by Belfour to Chelios. 33 seconds to go. Up to Goulet, now to Roenick at center ice, and he loses the puck. Chelios slams it to the Blues defense. Jeff Brown gets it over the red line. Long shot, and Belfour makes a save. The puck in the corner. Oates centers. Belfour tips it out to the right point. Brown, a bouncing puck, sends it behind the net. Momesso there trying to get it in front to Hall. Can't. Then Goulet can't get it out. Kept in by Stevens. The puck behind the Chicago net. 8 seconds to go in the third period. Now into the corner. Chelios clears to center ice. 2 seconds to go. 1 second. And that's the end of the third period here at the Chicago Stadium. As the Blues see a big lead disappear, the Hawks tie it at 11:27. 13 seconds later take the lead. And with less than 5 minutes to go in the third, Jeff Brown scores to tie it. And overtime is coming up here at Chicago Stadium. This is St. Louis Blues hockey.
Who are they? What do you like? Brown has a good game. Brown has a good game.
Yeah, I like that.
Great in a big game. Time here in Chicago. It's 6-6. The Hawks outscored the Blues 3-1 in the third period. Larmer at 6:08. Creighton at 11:27 tied the game. Presley made it 6-5 at 11:40, but then Brown scored unassisted at 15:17. The Hawks outshot the Blues in that third period 19-9, and the shots favor Chicago 35-27.
Here we go, overtime, a 5-minute period. Gilbert for Chicago at center ice, rifles it into the corner. Momesso back for the puck, has trouble with it behind the net, kicks it to the corner. Gilbert there. He'll lose it to Sneps. Sneps in traffic. Trying to get it out, can't. Conroy keeps it in, then Oates gets it. A pass behind Hull. Manson at his own line, up to Jocelyn Lemieux. He'll fire it in. A bouncing puck for Marois. Up the wing for Hull. He's run into by Gilbert. Here's Mario Marois, number 44, up to Hull. In the first minute of overtime to Oates. Back for Hull off Conroy. And Hull can't get to it. And Belfort clears the puck all the way to the blue zone. Jeff Brown to Oates. He'll shoot it in as both teams change players. Chelios in his own end. The Hawks have not lost in overtime this season. The Blues have not won in overtime. Chelios to Larmer. Over the line. His effort to feed the puck in front hits ground. Now centers. Goulet knocks it down. And then trying to get it in is Roenick. He centers. Brown slides on the ice. Blocks the puck. It's loose behind the goal. Into the corner to Larmer. Out to the right point to Chelios. His pass to Goulet. He'll shoot it into the near corner. Tipped by Roenick. Back to Doug Wilson. A shot hits away. Basson gets the puck. Ahead to Courtnall. He'll stop in front of the Blues bench at center ice and leave the puck for Scott Stevens to the red line. He'll flip it ahead with 3.5 minutes to go in this 5-minute overtime period. Out of his own end, Chris Chelios. Ahead for Steve Thomas. Around Marois to Creighton in front. Backhand effort for Presley. He doesn't shoot. He goes behind the net, a wraparound, and he sends it wide. A penalty coming up against the Blues. Conroy keeps it in. Far corner to Creighton. To the bench goes Belfort. Presley tries to center. Now to Graham. He does center. Loose puck, a shot, a save. It's still loose. It's still loose. And then Kerry Fraser whistles the play dead. And Chicago will get a power play with 3:01 to go here in overtime.
You don't see many calls in overtime, but Fraser makes one here. And Marois will go off, I think, for slashing or hooking. The time 1:59, and the Hawks will get a power play, their 5th of the game. The penalty occurred when Presley cut behind the goal, and Marois got his stick up on the back of his neck. He slashed at him a couple of times, and Marois goes off here. And now the Blues are in a lot of trouble as the Hawks will get a power play in overtime. Earlier, Roenick had a pretty good chance. Marois gets a slashing minor at 1:59. But the Hawks were buzzing around, and Ken, after getting a second look at that infraction, you really can't blame Fraser, because Brown clearly slashed the Hawk player in the back of the neck, and he did it not once but twice.
Chicago tonight is 1 for 4 on the power play. Doug Wilson scored a power play goal back in the second period. The faceoff will be to Riendo's left. Stevens and Brown, Ron Wilson and Lowry. Creighton up front with Larmer and Roenick. Doug Wilson and Chelios on the points. Creighton gets it to Doug Wilson. Behind the net to Larmer. Chicago with a man advantage. Tied at 6 in overtime. Back to the left point to Chelios. Along the near boards to Roenick as the Hawks set it up. Now to Chelios. Left circle, Roenick, a shot blocked by Brown. He bounces it ahead to Lowry, and he'll golf the puck the length of the ice. 2:35 to go in overtime. 1:34 to go in the Chicago power play. The Hawks are 2-0-2 in overtime. Chelios shoots the puck in. Riendo knocks it down behind the net to Brown. For Sutter, he can't get it out. Doug Wilson keeps it in. Centers a high pass that Larmer can't handle. Ron Wilson, a pass behind the net for Jeff Brown. Around the boards, not out, kept in by Doug Wilson. Off of Roenick into the corner to Creighton. Back to Doug Wilson. Right point to Chelios. His shot pass blocked by Ron Wilson. But Chelios gets it to Doug Wilson. A shot blocked. A drive in front. Roenick, loose puck. Brown falls down and sits on the puck as Jeremy Roenick, from a bad angle off to the left, almost got it by Vince Riendo. And the action is stopped at the 3-minute mark of overtime.
Wow, what action around the goal as it came back to Wilson. The Blues, 2 or 3 players went down to block it, and luckily for the Hawks it came to Roenick, and he tried to score from a bad angle, but Riendo was there, and then with the help of Brown and Stevens and Wilson, the Blues held on. Now 59 seconds left in the Hawk power play. We're in overtime, and we have 2 minutes left. And Ken, obviously, the Blues, if they can kill it off, they'll be in good shape. That's, I guess, an understatement, though.
The Blues in overtime, as we mentioned, winless. They've lost twice in OT and have 5 ties. Now the Hawks setting up their 5 skaters. Face off near Riendo. Roenick, Creighton, Larmer, Chelios, and Doug Wilson. 59 seconds to go, and the penalty to Mario Marois. Face off, Basson wins it, puck in the corner, Larmer back to the point to Chelios, to Doug Wilson. His shot blocked by Lowry. In the corner, Creighton takes out Sneps. Larmer trying to handle the puck, plays it along the boards, and Lowry intercepts, and he'll fire at the length of the ice. Belfour plays it off the boards to Roenick. There's a minute 40 to go in overtime. Chicago to center ice. Doug Wilson to Larmer, in over the line. Hawks with a power play in front of Doug Wilson, and he tips it wide. He had an open net. Here is Chicago maintaining possession. Lemieux trying to center. Stevens has it, but loses it to Larmer. Larmer along the near boards, out in the slot to Chelios. A shot blocked by Lowry. Chelios sends it to Roenick behind the net. Roenick in front. Doug Wilson. He fans, and Sneps clears at the length of the ice. 10 seconds until Marois is back. Over a minute to go in overtime. Here's Chelios, tripped by Stevens. No penalty. The puck goes to Brown. Ahead at center ice for Sutter, who's hit by Kuchera, and the puck ends up behind the Chicago net. Marois back on. The Blues kill off the penalty. Here's a pass to Thomas over the line, but hold everything. It is offside Chicago. That pass originating inside the Chicago blue line. And we are down to 56 seconds remaining in overtime. 6-6. The Blues forcing overtime on Jeff Brown's 4th goal of the year at 15-17 of the 3rd period. The Blues had led after a period 3-0, and early in the 2nd period were leading 4-1.
But the Hawks put together a sensational 3rd period. 19 shots, and they scored 3 times. And now I believe a timeout has been called. We'll wait and see by either Keenan or Sutter. 56 seconds left in a wild game here at Chicago Stadium. Well, on one hand, the Blues did have a big lead. The Hawks did call the timeout, by the way. The Blues had a big lead, but Ken, you also have to give them credit. They fought back. They were down 6-5, and it looked very bleak, but they got the tying goal and then killed off a Hawk power play in overtime, and now we have less than a minute to go, and the Blues have what they want, a face-off back in the Hawk end.
Ryan Sutter instructing his troops as to what he wants to happen. They can't look ahead, but we can.
The Blues play tomorrow in Toronto, then return home for a date with the Flyers this Saturday. That's college night. Then Thursday, January 3rd, Quebec's in town on Can Cooler night. And the Rangers will play here or in St. Louis on the 5th on Olive Garden Italian Restaurants Pennant Flag Night. The first 12,000 fans will get a pennant flag when the Blues host the Rangers. But 56 seconds left here in overtime.
Here we go. The face-off just inside the Chicago blue line. Oates facing off with Roenick. And the puck dropped, and it comes to the Hawks. Larmer starts out to Gilbert, right wing. Roenick, 2-on-1 in front, out of the reach of Gilbert is the pass. Puck along the near boards. 44 seconds to go. Larmer in the corner. Back for Doug Wilson at the left point. The Blues want to get the puck. Larmer trying to center, can't. It's loose behind the net. Here's Roenick in front. His shot blocked by Stevens. Stevens down trying to cover the puck. Gloves it ahead. It's played by Hall to Courtnall to Oates. Now to Courtnall at center ice. You can glove it ahead in your own end. Stevens dumps it in with 20 seconds to go. The puck behind the Chicago net. Chelios with it. Chelios, long pass to center ice to Larmer. 3-on-2 over the line. Larmer shoots. Riendo the save. 7 seconds to go. Hawks can't center. Hull has the puck deep in his own end, trying to clear it out. Can't. 2 seconds. Creighton, side of the net. 1 second. He centers. It goes in, but the game was over. The Hawks put the puck in the net, but the game was over. And this one ends up in a 6-6 tie. A battle royal between the NHL's top two teams, and the Blackhawks pick up their 53rd point of the season. The Blues pick up their 48th, and of course the Blues have 4 games in hand on Chicago. Jeff Brown's goal with less than 5 minutes remaining in the third period gains a tie for the Blues here at the stadium in Chicago. Let's take a look at our Busch Beer 3 stars for tonight's game. The number 3 star, Chicago's Dave Manson. He had a pair of assists. Adam Creighton had 2 goals for Chicago. He is the Busch number 2 star. And the game's number 1 star, the Blues' Jeff Brown, whose goal late in the third period forced overtime. Manson, Creighton, and Brown are tonight's Busch 3 stars here at Chicago Stadium. 6-6 the final. We'll return to Chicago in just a moment. This is St. Louis Blues hockey.
Well, I guess a tie in a row is a good deal.
We're going to see the last 2 goals.
I'm not second guessing. Why doesn't Brian ever use a timeout?
There was definitely an opportunity.
Twice as good, I believe.
Say again, 2 goals back to back, right? Okay. Next.
What goals are we seeing? The last 2, Presley and Jeff Brown.
Will do quickly. A standing room only crowd here in Chicago tonight, and they see themselves a dozen goals as the Hawks and the Blues skate to a 6-6 tie. Ken Wilson and John Kelly welcoming you back to Chicago. Well, it was a battle. One way to look at it is the Blues had a big lead early. They led 5-3 going into the third period. They can't get a win. The other way, though, to look at it is, John, they get a tie, they get a point, and the Blues now are undefeated in their last 9 games.
That's right. I guess you can look at it from a bunch of different angles depending on your point of view, if you're a pessimist or an optimist. But a couple of things, Ken. You mentioned the Blues came from behind. They blew a lead. But don't forget, the Blues still have 4 games in hand on Chicago, and they have 5-point deficits. So there's still a lot of time to go.
Well, I think both teams would tell you before this game started that this game here isn't going to really decide anything. There's a long way to go yet. The Blues saw Adam Creighton get a goal in the third period to really make it interesting. Then Wayne Presley got a goal to break a 5-5 tie at 11:40.
Presley picked up his own rebound as the Hawks held the puck in, and really there were no Blues back there except for Dirk, and Presley got his own rebound, and he stuffed it in for his 7th of the year. And that capped a furious rally, 2 goals in 13 seconds, and it looked like the Blues were dead.
That made it 6-5 Chicago, but with less than 5 minutes to go in the third period, Jeff Brown will score to tie it.
Courtnall did the work behind the goal, tried a wraparound, then the Hawks failed to clear it, and Brown, moving in from the right point, blasted right through the legs of Ed Belfour, and that ties the game. And it's good to see Jeff Brown get into the scoring column again.
Well, no question. He had a big night for the Blues, and as we noted, our Busch Beer #1 star. We mentioned the undefeated streak. The Blues now have gone 9 straight games without a loss. That is the second longest undefeated streak in the NHL this season. The Rangers had a streak of 10 games without a loss in November. Now it's on to Toronto, maybe a point or two there tomorrow night.
Well, the Maple Leafs have the worst record in the entire NHL, but the one thing that you have to keep in mind, the Leafs haven't played since the weekend, and they're waiting in Toronto for the Blues. The Blues will board a chartered plane in a few minutes and fly to Toronto, but it'll be tough in Maple Leaf Gardens. The Toronto club played the Blues tough last time.
Well, it's a very tough 80-game schedule, folks, and we'll see in 24 hours how the Blues fare after this battle here in Chicago tonight. Our next telecast on KPLR TV, St. Louis 11, is tomorrow night from Maple Leaf Gardens. The telecast starts at 6:30 p.m. Central Time. The next broadcast on KMOX Radio is tomorrow night from Toronto. The pregame show begins at 6:20. The game broadcast at 6:30. For John Kelly, this is Ken Wilson. Happy holidays from Chicago, and thanks for being with us tonight here at the stadium. Once again, the final score: the St. Louis Blues 6, the Chicago Blackhawks 6. St. Louis Blues hockey has been a presentation of Bud Sports through the facilities of KPLR TV and KMOX Radio. Folks, stay tuned now as Don Clark and Christine Buck bring you St. Louis 11 News. Mark Ferree will have the weather, and Bob Ramsey checks the sports. That's St. Louis 11 News, coming right up.